surprise. Aren't you the man who told me to live every week like it's Shark Week, and that nothing's impossible except for dinosaurs? Don't give up on life, sir.
Wow. Ontogeny. Ontogeny.
Tradoon.
Ontogeny.
Tradoon. Tradoon. Tradoon.
Girder. Girder.
Tradoon.
Ontogeny. Ontogeny. ontogeny.
Tradoon. Tradoon.
Ontogeny. Girder.
Tradoon. Tradoon.
Girder. Girder. What?
Tradoon.
Girder. Glue is cheap. Glue is cheap.
Good show, chaps.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
research is required. It's why paleontology is such an exciting science. It's like we're always learning new things all the time. To mount the skeleton. Really, really cool. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Paleontologizing. It's really good to have you here. We're gonna have a fun stream. It's gonna be kind of a chill one today, even more so than usual. Kieran Chi, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. And why does my camera feel blurry? I feel like I'm a little bit out of focus right here. Hang on just a sec. Let me see if I can adjust this. I adjusted it right before the stream, but something's up. Anyway, nothing's going right today. Sorry, I'm starting the stream a little bit late. My sound commands weren't working. The 3D printer camera is not working. Oh boy. And I did not have very much time to get ready today because there was a meeting at the museum in Berkeley that I was at. Really good to catch up with some of my colleagues there, and we've got some exciting stuff coming up, hopefully. But anyway, yeah. It's so good to have you here. If anybody's here for the very first time, welcome to Paleontologizing. Shoot, this one's blurry too. What's up with this? I just tested it like 5 minutes ago and it wasn't this blurry. Anyway, welcome. It's good to have you here. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, not a programmer or a stream technician or anything like that, obviously. As a dinosaur paleontologist, I work on dinosaurs. I dig them up during the summers. I study dinosaurs. I publish on them in the scientific literature. And now I talk about dinosaurs 5 days a week right here on Twitch. And that includes live streams from the field. Also, if some of you were already here for that, and I hope you enjoyed those, but if you didn't, check out the VODs or check out the YouTube page. And if you stick around next summer, we're going to be digging up some dinosaurs live on stream. And who knows, we might even have a weekend jaunt here and there to go do that. No promises. We'll have to see before the summer. So yeah. And out of uniform, says Oliver. There you go. Yeah. I did not have much time to get ready for today's stream because I was attending this meeting at the museum. But, yeah.
Because if they're removed, America loses them forever.
I want a Niffler. Hey, thank you for subscribing. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Thank you for that pledge of ongoing support. I really appreciate that, Niffler. Welcome, welcome. So in these broadcasts, we talk paleontology. We go over fossil science, new discoveries, new publications, lots and lots of Q&A. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'm also going to be getting into interviewing some other paleontologists more often. And, yeah, every once in a while we goof around with a game or something like that, too. Maybe about once every 6 months, I'll play a video game. Hello to you, Niffler. It's great to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Can I ask how you found the channel? I'd love to know.
Try blaming the dinosaurs.
I often do. Krigani, thank you for the 100 bits. That is excellent. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Swims with Whales says, loved yesterday's stream, Danny. I'm glad. I'm really glad. I put a lot of preparation into yesterday's stream. Today I didn't have as much time to do that, so we're going to be a little bit more loosey-goosey today. We're going to be going over some of the dinosaur deep dives we didn't get to yesterday. Bruhafkaiosaurus, a mysterious giant sauropod from India. And also, why Getalosauridae? These non-dinosaurian, non-lizard reptiles from the Permian, I want to say. We'll look that up. Might be Carboniferous. I think it's Permian, though. So anyway, yeah. And there is Goofy's, occasionally Welted Thistle, occasionally do some goofing off around here. Yeah. You know? Science isn't all white coats and, you know, stern looks. You know, pressing your eyeballs up against a microscope. Scientists are human beings. With all of the goofiness that can accompany that sometimes, you know? Oh, yeah. Dinosaur Dave says, sounds like the perfect stream to build some Lego. We could do that, Dinosaur Dave. Maybe if we have time. We do have to assemble our Allosaurus skull. We've got some pieces there to assemble. And I'm so glad that this is like my 9th try trying to get this 3D printer to work. We had some major pieces finished printing this morning. So we might even be able to add those onto our Allosaurus skull today. And then we'll be doing those dinosaur deep dives. Maybe we can do some Lego stuff too, but I wanted to make more of an event out of that, Dinosaur Dave. Put Lego in the tags for the broadcast and everything else. So we'll see. We'll see. I appreciate you, Dinosaur Dave. Thank you again for sending that. I gotta get that sent off to Jim afterward. Yeah. Godzilla Enthusiast says, we also play in the dirt looking at rocks. This is true. It's a big part of Earth science. And there you go, Caravan. Yeah, terrible film, as I recall. Valley of the Dragons from 1961. It's in our dinosaur filmography book. Where did I put that book? It's somewhere. There it is. Yeah. And Niffler says, have you come across the Dracoraptor, newest dinosaur discovered here in Wales? Was that a dinosaur? Niffler? I want to say that was a pterosaur or some non-dinosaurian critter. Yeah. No, it is a dinosaur. It's a coelophysoid. There we go. Yeah. When was this named? 2016. Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool. We're not totally sure if these animals had feathers yet, but it would make sense if they did. Yeah, pretty neat. And a decent amount of material, honestly, from this critter. Could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if... Let's try this like this. Oh, we might have to do like that from now on. Keep everything on the page. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Dracoraptor. Anyway. Good stuff. Laganudo says, "What's up with the printer?" What do you mean? It had edges of the print were curling up, and then it kept catching on the nozzle. I'm not sure what the issue is, but I was able to solve it and get it to print properly by just turning the nozzle temperature way up, and everything is extruding fine right now. So we'll see. Yeah. This one should take about 4 hours. We're printing more of our Allosaurus skull. So why don't we go ahead and work on that. There we go. This is a life-size Allosaurus skull that I am currently printing and assembling. Like we've been doing for the past, since before I left for the field this summer. We've got more of it to assemble, so let's get into it. Here is our lower jaw once again. This is all complete. Now we are working on the skull, and I have the front of the skull complete except for the teeth. So we're working on the brain case and associated elements right now. There's the front of the skull. Oh boy. And Andy Aspian, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. I almost called you Andy Sapiens. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Say hello to our Allosaurus here. Yeah. So the back of the skull is what we're currently working on. We've got some newly printed pieces, so let's get those installed, shall we?
Dinosaurs hold a special magnetism for children.
There's Allosaurus right there. Elias, 16 months. Thank you for the ongoing support. That means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you. Grim Deviant says, so cool. Thanks, Deviant. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, we've got our skull right here. Brain case and associated elements are going to fit on like this. There's the back of our skull. Right now, I'm gripping the occipital condyle, which is like the ball and socket joint. It's basically like the trailer ball that attaches to the neck vertebrae. So anyway, we have more parts to attach to our brain case here, and some of those are done printing. Let's take a look at them. We've got this. I think these might be the articulars or the quadrates. We'll have to take a look. And I have these pieces as well. We've been doing a lot of printing. And yeah, this is continuing pretty quickly. Makes me excited. We're gonna be done with it pretty soon. Yeah. And we've got a shout out for Astro Canuck. Is Astro Canuck in here right now? Astro, did I miss you in the chat? Where are you? Oh, member of Tom's community. Oh, very cool, Andy Aspian. Well. Welcome to Paleontologizing. I'm glad you could make it today. Here, this is a paper published on the cranial osteology, and I guess overall osteology, of Allosaurus here. And so this is a wonderful reference. There we go. So quadrate is right there, and quadratojugal. That is these bones here. This is going to be tricky trying to get this to all show up in camera right now. What is left? Quadratojugals and squamosals, postorbitals? I think so, Ken, yeah. Yeah. And a few other little odds and ends. Ectopterygoids. So the pointy thing is underneath it. What is that? It is underneath. IPTV. What is this? That's probably a fenestra or something. I don't think that's the name of a bone. But yeah, got the pterygoids, the palatine bones, I think. Some other bones like that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have all these memorized yet either. The ones from all these, yeah, little guys, like you said, Ken, right up there near the brain case in the back of the skull. They get confusing, and unless you're assembling something like this, or unless you're digging up one of these animals in the field, there's not much reason to learn them necessarily. Doesn't come up very often. Intrapalatal TV, there you go. Yes, intrapalatal televisor. I'm sure that's it. Alright. Now we can also take a look at the instructions for this particular thing, which I have here. Once it loads. Being real slow. There we go. Yeah. So we've gotten most of these done so far. But the pieces that I have, 31 and 30, I think, I have one of those on there already. We'll do this one next, because that just finished printing during yesterday's stream. And then that'll narrow things down for us a bit. We can get some more of these on there also. I think this will be like this. There we go. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Let's set it up. Andy says, how long is it taking you all together? I mean, shoot, it's been about probably close to 500 hours of print time so far. And then several hours of assembly at least. But man, is it going to be worth it when it's done. Having a life-size Allosaurus skull is going to be pretty darn cool. Yeah. There's that piece. There we go. That focused in properly. There we are. And let me get my glue. Yeah. Yeah, and I know you're being silly, Ken. I was being silly also. No worries. Yeah. It would make sense if the P had to do with the palette. Yeah. Alright. This piece is gonna go on here just like that. And these are the... what's? Let's figure that out. These flanges up here will be the squamosals, it looks like. Yeah, because we have the parietals. The parietals are these along here, and these are the squamosals coming down off of that. Interesting that they are parietal, squamosal, hang on. Yeah, parietal and squamosal down there. Yeah, I think that's it. Back up to here. Squamosal. Yes, I believe that's it. Right? Yeah. So let's get that right squamosal put on there. Here's our glue cocktail once again. Some Gorilla Glue for volume and for strength. And then for rigidity and speed of curing, we will use our cyanoacrylate, super glue. Yeah. And cool, Andy. Well, it's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Again, welcome to Paleontologizing. I'm glad you could be here. Let me know if you've got any questions. All right. That's on there, and that's got a nice squishiness there. We've got some decent volume in here. That's a good thing. Fill in those gaps. Have some real nice adhesion in there. Good stuff. Good stuff. And Afro Bandit Girl, how are you doing? Happy Tuesday to you also. I've had a very busy Tuesday so far. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. And where am I going to fit such a skull? Shogo, it'll be... Well, I'll just put it where the Camarasaurus skull is right now. That's where it'll go. Yeah. Or I could put it where the baby Triceratops is. The plan is to kind of have a rotating cast. A rotating menagerie of different fossil 3D prints. Yeah, very nice. That is They stay on beautifully. So once again, this is the back of our skull. The brain would be housed inside of here. See right there? You've got that hole, that's the foramen magnum. That's where the spinal cord actually goes through. From the neck up into the brain. So here's our skull. This will fit on just like that.
Stegosaurus, 25 feet long, weighing 4 tons. A versatile sort of chap. He won a lot of arguments in his time, but very few beauty contests.
And Casually Average, thank you for the 6 months of support. I appreciate that very much. Welcome back. It's good to have you here, Casually Average. You are far from average in my book. You are superior. Thank you for your ongoing support. And we want a more upbeat song than this. Let's skip this one. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if we can put these on also. So I'm trying to remember which bones these were, what the name is, and where they fit on. Let's take a look at our instructions again. Right there. 37 and 38, those are our jugals, I believe. Are those these? It's hard to tell what that is supposed to be from an angle. Is that number 38 and 39? I don't think I printed 38 and 39 yet. 30 and 31, I already did. 32, 33, 34, 35. It's not those. Could it be... These bones at the back of the skull, always confusing. There's just so much going on. There we go. That fits on just like that. Excellent. Let's get those on there right now. And then we'll figure out what they are. Alright, so bunch of Gorilla Glue on here. For volume. Our super glue. There we are. Nice. Very nice. Excellent. Yeah. And Andy says, did you watch Crew 7? I live in the UK. It was fun. I don't know what that is, Andy Sapien. What's that? I don't really have time to watch a lot of television, to be honest. But yeah. Ugh, I got a little bit of cyanoacrylate on my hands. Fingers are sticking together. Yeah. And Nell says, I know it's a skull, but for a moment I thought it was a sacrum. I mean, it does have kind of a weird axial skeleton sacral kind of feel to it, so I don't blame you for thinking that for a second. It does have kind of a weird sacrum-y aspect to it. It looks oddly pelvic. Alright. And... should go on just like this. And it does. Beautiful. Alright. Oh, a SpaceX crew mission to the ISS. Oh, cool, Andy Sapien. No, I did not watch that. I can't remember the last time I watched a rocket take off live. It probably would have been 2020 or something like that. Probably, that's actually probably one of the first Twitch broadcasts I ever watched. I was hanging out with Ios shortly after I'd met her, and she was kind of showing me around Twitch, showing me what it was all about, and we watched some kind of a launch live back in 2020. I think it was an important one, but I don't recall the name or the specific details, but it would have been in the spring of 2020. Alright, there we are. Excellent. Very nice. So we'll figure out what these little flanges are. We'll figure out which bone this is, what it's called, and then we'll look at some of these bones on a human skull, just to kind of give you your bearings there. There we are. Nice. And let me grab some napkins here to get rid of some of our glue runoff. Keep things as clean as possible. Very nice. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Was it Demo 2? I don't recall that name. It might have been, but that doesn't ring any bells. Alright. So I'm just going to apply some pressure to this, make sure that these cure in the way that they should. And yeah, and Nell says, will the skull be articulated so you can chomp with it? It'll be set so I can't do that, yeah. Because that's the thing, is that the lower jaw, it's not like a hinge or anything like that. It's not actually affixed to the rest of the skull. In life, it would be attached via ligaments and other soft tissue. But it's not like it's a door hinge or something like that, you know? The actual hinge is soft tissue, I guess, is what I mean to say. The way that the lower jaw articulates with the skull. Yeah. And Shoga says, how much would the actual bone skull weigh compared to the model? It'd be about the same, I bet. Maybe the actual skull in life, like if it were just the bone, all dried out, would be maybe a tiny bit heavier than this hollow 3D print. But the fossil bone would be 10 times heavier because it's partly turned to stone. Permineralized, we like to say. Where some of the original organic material has been replaced by minerals in the groundwater and in the surrounding rock. Yeah. And I'm not sure what a gudgeon or a pintle is. I think isn't a gudgeon a kind of game fish, Brainington? Pintle sounds like an engineering term, though. Yeah. And Shogun says, oh, cool, thanks. Never considered that. Yeah. Dinosaur fossil bone is a lot heavier than the bones would have been when they were fresh. You know? The fossilization process adds a lot of weight to these things. Yeah. Very nice. And I'm glad you like the song, Mia Miyakota. It's good stuff. Alright, let's figure out what these weird bones are. First, again, let me orient you. This is basically this part of the skull right here. It's this right there. There's the foramen magnum again, so that's where the spinal cord goes through. This is where the skull attaches to the neck vertebrae. And so what are these prongs that come off the sides like this? These kind of paddle-shaped bones. Let's take a look. POPR. Post-orbital something. Let's see, looking at our abbreviations here. Paroccipital process. There we go. These are the paroccipital processes coming off either side. I'm not sure we even have these as humans. Let's take a look at some human skull bones, just to kind of orient everybody. Again, I'm repeating myself here, but we've got new people here in the chat. We're not familiar with this. This is a human skull. You might think of the skull as being one bone. That's completely wrong. There's a bunch of different bones that make up a skull, any skull, including a human skull. And so each of these bones have different names. Some of them are single, some of them are paired. But the skull is bilaterally symmetrical like that. And so the bones that we're talking about, we're assembling basically this part back here, the brain case. And a human, the brain case is really big. That's like the majority of the volume of our skull is made up of the brain case. That is not the case with Allosaurus. It's a very bitey kind of dinosaur. It's got big old jaws. Its brain case is not as big as the rest of its body, the rest of its skull, you know? So yeah, there's the foramen magnum in a person right there, where the spinal cord goes through. And so the... yeah, that process might be right there on a human skull. The same one that we were talking about just a second ago. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And baby human skull bones aren't fused. That's often true, Kennedy, yeah. Yeah. Some of them are fused during birth, but not all of them. You've still got, like, that fontanelle in the back that closes up later in ontogeny as you grow and mature. So, yeah. Yeah. So, again, here is our Allosaurus skull. There we go. PRPR, that was the...
Ontogeny.
Forgetting it already. The paroccipital process. Which makes sense, because it's to the sides of the occipital condyle. Para means, like, beside or near. So paroccipital process, it's a process that's near the occipital. Makes sense. Yeah. Good stuff. Do we have any other pieces that we can put on? It won't be time yet for putting on our jugals that will articulate quadratijugals, rather. Quadrates? Quadrates. It won't be time for putting on our quadrates yet, but I'll see if we can make that... if we can figure that out. When do those go on? Quadratijugals, number 37 and 38. They go up into that part. Orient this correctly. Okay, like that. And so these will fit into another piece, I think, which I don't have assembled yet. But they'll be something like this, or something like that. Look right. There we go. Oh yeah, so that'll fit onto there like that. And this is what articulates with the lower jaw. Our quadratojugal. So the quadratojugal, or quadrate, sorry, is that right there. And this... there'd be a fleshy joint here in life, so you've got ligaments and muscles that attach right here. They go from these insertion points along here, up along the back of the jaw, and then they link up with the skull there to hold the jaw on and help it open and close. In this model, we actually have the quadrate will articulate with the articular bone of the lower jaw, and I'll show you how that'll work. Here's our lower jaw right here. There we go. And so that'll fit on just like that. So as you can see, this can't open and close like a hinge in this model. it'll just be stuck like that. I mean, if it had a moving part like that, it would make this kind of structurally unsound. So I'm kind of glad it's just all going to be rigid like that. It'll make it more secure. But yeah, doing a project like this really gives you a better appreciation for just the incredible, like, evolutionary engineering of something like this. Like, this beautiful skull of this animal, just so well adapted for doing whatever it was it did. Biting stuff, for the most part. Allosaurus, like I said, very bitey dinosaur, you know? Yeah. In fact, well, it calls to mind a Simpsons moment, actually. There we go. Yeah. Why was that so quiet? Yeah. Big bitey animal. And Allosaurus is in the Morrison. It's the most common meat-eating dinosaur from the Morrison Formation, Kennedy. Yes, indeed. And we'll be talking a lot more about it once we have this thing fully assembled. But I'm going to set these pieces aside. It's good that we have them printed, but we need to have a few other pieces printed before we can attach these to the skull. Some of these things, they require several points of articulation, and so you kind of have to have other pieces in place before you can put these on. So we'll be waiting on these. Yeah. But yeah, and let me drink some water too. Thank you there now. And Nell says, percentage-wise, how far into the build do you think you've done so far? Probably about 80% now. Yeah. Yeah, probably about 80%. Like, we're on basically step 22? Out of 30 steps. Well, actually, we're further than that, because we've already done the lower jaw. The lower jaw comes later in the instructions. And so that's 18 plus 30 is 48. So yeah, we're like, what, 38 out of 48 steps, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long day already. I'm not on my mental math game right now. But yeah. Labrosaurus, very funny, Brannington. Yeah. Labrosaurus is... Hang on, isn't Labrosaurus an antiquated name for a theropod dinosaur? Maybe Allosaurus itself? Let's look it up real quick. Labrosaurus. There you go. Yeah, Allosaurus. It's a junior synonym, yeah. Is this another Marsh or Cope one? Let's see. Let's see. Yep, Labrosaurus ferox, Marsh 1884. This is the thing. This is one of those synonyms that Cope and Marsh, man, they got a little too wild with their dinosaur naming. Labrontosaurus. Yeah, there you go. It's the greatest of all time, Ken. Kennedy says, what's a junior synonym? Ooh. Let's talk about that. So I wonder if I can find a video on it, but a junior synonym is when the same kind of creature gets named twice by mistake. So the junior synonym is the one that's junior to the senior one. So it's the name that was come up with second. So it's junior to the original name, and so that's the name we get rid of. Like with Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus. Brontosaurus is thought to be a junior synonym to Apatosaurus. There are two names given to the same animal. Brontosaurus, the name, is a junior synonym. Yeah. Junior synonym. Oh, let's see about this.
Junior synonym. Noun. 1. Zoology. In zoological nomenclature,
Yep,
name
like
which
naming
describes
animals.
the same taxon as a
Taxon.
previously published name.
Yep. So there you go. In this case, Labrosaurus. Marsh named this after he initially named Allosaurus. It turns out they're the same animal. And so Labrosaurus, that name is considered a junior synonym of Allosaurus. Does that make sense? So sometimes if we go to a Wikipedia page for, say, Allosaurus here, we'll have a little thing on the side, synonyms. You can list them. Antrodemus, Apatodon, Creosaurus, Epenterius, Labrosaurus, Madseneus, and Wyoming raptor. All of these are junior synonyms of Allosaurus. So at times when somebody goofed, and it turns out it's probably the same critter, you know? So yeah. And is that like the band Dinosaur Jr.? It's a little different, I think, Caravan. But I like where your head's at. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, hope that makes sense, Kennedy. Yeah. You don't hate the name Apatodon? I mean, it means deceptive tooth, which is interesting. Like Apatosaurus means deceptive lizard. Oh yeah. Anyway, we've got some dinosaur deep dives to do, I believe. Why don't we get into those? Let's see here. Matt M33 had requested Bruhathkaiosaurus 47 minutes ago? No, that was yesterday. I don't know. Timing thing is all weird here. So Matt M33, let me know if you were here. And also Freelancer 117, let me know if you were here. Whichever one of you pipes up first, we'll do your dinosaur deep dive first, or non-dinosaur deep dive, as the case may be, for Wildgetosaurus. Freelancer. Hello. And Matt M33 is here too? Excellent. We'll do Wildgetosauridae first. Wildgetosauridae? They're these weird glidey reptile things from before the dinosaurs. We'll do them first, and then we'll do Bruhathkaiosaurus for you, Madam 33. Yeah. So. Wildgetosauridae. Really weird critters. I think Icarosaurus might be one of these. I don't know enough about them, because they're not dinosaurs, and I've never really looked at them in depth before. But, yeah. These are critters that kind of remind me of a modern Draco lizard. Although these guys are not lizards. Let's talk about them. Yeah. They're from the late Permian, so just before the biggest mass extinction event to have ever occurred. They lived before then. From Germany and England. And this one was originally called Coelurosaurus until it was found to be a different genus. That's a cool name because it means Hollow lizard bird, Coelurosaurus. Yeah. So, like other Weigeltosaurids, they possessed long, rod-like bones that radiated from the trunk that were likely used to support membranes used for gliding, similar to extant Draco lizards. There you go. The only reason we know that is because these are exquisitely well preserved. I mean, look at that skull in Figure B right there. Just gorgeous. And kind of like a Draco lizard, it also seems to have some adornment upon its skull. It's got something interesting and display-y going on like that. Yeah. And Steely Dan says, so the dinosaur deep dive does not strictly have to be a dinosaur. I prefer it to be a dinosaur. I feel like you're not going to get your points worth if it's not a dinosaur, because I'm just reading the Wikipedia article on this one. We're hardly doing a deep dive. I mean, shoot. I have very little insight about these guys. But yeah. Like a lot of stuff in Europe, there are private fossil dealers who own some of these specimens. Yeah. Privately owned specimens again. But what weird and interesting critters. It does go to show that gliding is something that evolves again and again and again throughout vertebrate animals. I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, powered flight is one of those things that's pretty rare. Powered flight has only evolved 4 times that I know of in the entire history of life on Earth. But gliding is something that's evolved multiple times. Many, many more times than powered flight has. Yeah. Yeah. And interesting, the teeth are slightly heterodont. Heterodont means that it's got different kinds of teeth in the same mouth, often for different purposes. Front teeth being small and peg-like, while the back teeth are lance-shaped and recurved. It has feet of elongate phalanges, similar to those of extant arboreal lizards, adapted for climbing. And what a neat reconstruction right there. These are not very big animals, too. I'm guessing they're about like that. But we'll see. Pretty cool. Yeah. Here. Let's, So this is not a lizard here. This lived long before the first lizards evolved, even though it looks kind of lizardy. So I want to emphasize this is not a dinosaur, and it's not a lizard. This predates lizards by probably like 50 million years, which is pretty neat. And we've got similar kinds of creatures today that are lizards. There we go. Take a look at this. These guys live in Southeast Asia today? Yeah.
The flying dragon can glide
Borneo. Thank you, Mayor Space.
And
Yeah.
still swoop in for a perfect 3-point landing. Loose folds of skin on the lizard's sides expand into a cape attached to its ribs, enabling it to glide.
It's got a built-in wingsuit, basically. Excuse me.
Safety from predators is only a jump away.
Very nice. That's super, super cool. So imagine Weigeltosaurus doing the same sort of deal there. Here we go. So notice these display features that they have like this. It's interesting that, though, Weigetelsaurids also have, like little spiny things coming off the back of their head, it seems. Presumably for display. They may have been similarly territorial like this. Photography in this is so good. Holy cow. Pretty extraordinary. That's its rib cage right there. Extraordinary. Yep. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So these animals almost certainly led a similar lifestyle to modern Draco lizards. The Coelurosaurids. And check out that skull right there. That is Weigeltosaurus. Look how ornate that is. Look at all those little knobs and bumps, and they were probably pretty brightly colored. So yeah, interesting. And again, not lizards, and certainly not dinosaurs. They predate both groups. Interesting stuff. That's about all I really have to say about Weigeltosaurids, I guess. Yeah, there's, yeah, I don't have a lot of insight about these guys. So yeah. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. And yes, that tail probably was used for stability in the clip that we just watched. A lot of animals that glide will use their tails as kind of a rudder. Flying squirrels will do the same thing. And, yeah, Draco lizards, sugar gliders, colugos, critters like that. Let's see if I can find you a clip of the flying snake, too, because somebody was bringing that up. Gliding snake is actually more like it. Here, take a look.
This is no ordinary snake. What makes it so unusual is not its ability to slither up a tree like this. Many snakes are able to use their belly scales to push against tree bark, allowing them to undulate upwards. No, what makes this tree snake so unusual is its interest in, well, one might say, passion for, becoming airborne.
Pretty cool.
Are flying snakes. They fly from tree to tree. Why? Well, probably because here
They don't really fly. It's not powered flight.
Most efficient way to get from here to there. The snake flattens its body into a ribbon shape, launches itself, and then swims through the air. Actually, since the snake can't fly upward, it might better be called a parachuting snake. Of course, two can play at this flying game. This is the flying dragon lizard.
Yeah, Draco volans.
Flying dragon lizard is entirely culinary. He wants to eat it.
Culinary.
The flying dragon puffs itself out.
It's a weird pronunciation.
The snake seems unimpressed, or at least undaunted. I mean, a meal is a meal. Is a meal. Sorry, gotta fly. On either side of the dragon's body are thin, wing-like folds of skin.
Pretty neat.
By 5 to 7 ribs that extend from the body. With its wings extended, it's capable of flying for distances of up to 30 feet. If the snake is a parachutist, the dragon...
That's way more than 30 feet right there that it just did.
Ooh, nice flight and great landing, and terrific self-rescue.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So yeah, Weigeltosaurids were doing this way back in the Permian period. Neat stuff. Yeah. And Ken says, I don't even have an issue with snakes, but them flying at me from above is something I don't need in my life. Yeah, suit yourself there, Ken. No, I think I agree with you. I like snakes where I know where they are, you know? The idea of being descended upon by a gliding snake is not... that's not an idea that I relish either. But yeah. Wings are for the birds. And pterosaurs, insects, flying fish, aircraft, etc. Yeah! Oh, bats. Thank you, Kennedy, of course. As long as it's not gliding and venomous. You know, I'm not sure if... Is the gliding snake, flying snake venomous? Chrysopelia. There we go. They are mildly venomous. Though the venom is dangerous only to their small prey. There's the ornate flying snake. Very pretty critter. And let's see where they show up on our tree of life. Flying snakes. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Moluccan flying snake, Indian flying snake, barred tree snake, Laramie flying snake. Uh-oh, Ken. Oh, sure. I should have said Denver flying snake. You don't live in Wyoming anymore. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to worry too much about them, Ken. I think they're restricted to probably the Malaysian and Indonesian archipelagos. Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And looks like they're doing pretty well. They're not endangered or anything. Yeah. East Bay flying snake. There you go. Oh, sorry, that music's way too loud. Aunt Nem says, it's interesting to see the snake's balance on the tree branches to move forward. Yeah. Pretty neat stuff. Really cool adaptations that these creatures have. Pretty awesome. Well, that'll cross off Weigeltosaurus from our list there. Freelancer now, met M33, Bruhathkayasaurus. An actual dinosaur for a dinosaur deep dive here. Bruhathkayasaurus, I'm trying to remember what I know about this animal off the top of my head. Bruhathkayasaurus is a titanosaur, I believe, from India. And it's often thought to be one of the very largest of all dinosaurs. It would have been enormous. 47.2 meters? Maybe, yeah. Huge, huge, huge. What? Anyway, the problem with Bruhathkayasaurus, as I recall, is that I don't think we actually have anything close to a complete skeleton of this animal. I don't think we actually have any fossils at all of this animal that are still in existence. I think the original specimens were destroyed somehow. They may have just collapsed under their own weight. We were talking about why fossil bones are, you know, much heavier than fresh bones. That means that they can fall apart pretty easily, and that may have happened in this case.
Welcome to another edition of Lifestyles of the Large and Extinct.
And Ola Kala, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Good to have you here. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, and somebody was asking about that really fleshy neck like this. We don't know how much flesh they would have had on their neck. I doubt it was this much. Like, these animals would probably want to reduce that bulk as much as possible. But it was still all full of air, so I don't know, maybe they could afford to have such a bulky neck. But yeah, when you're picturing these animals, picture that being, you know, all hollow. The vertebrae in their necks are all shot through with pneumaticity. So basically their neck is like a big balloon, kind of. Not a helium balloon, but, you know. And actually, speaking of which... Here, take a look at this clip. Right here.
The Titanosaur's immense necks are supported by an ultra-lightweight, air-filled skeleton.
Yep.
Their hollow neck bones are connected to a series of bellows that inflate bizarre gular air sacs.
So we don't know if they actually had air sacs like this external to their necks, like a sage grouse or something. We don't. This is speculative right here, but it makes sense based on the fact that we know their neck bones were hollow, pneumatized, hooked up to the respiratory system.
Impressive displays will attract the most females.
I'll tell you
Oop. Well, hello, it's Morphosaurus. There we go. You're not gruesome. Smorf, thank you for the 16 months of support.
Almost a whole year. Wait.
Yeah, almost a whole year. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, Smorf. I really appreciate it. Welcome back. It's good to have you here. Thanks for keeping me here on the air.
This huge bull, white with dust, has held the center stage for 2 weeks. He weighs nearly 50 tons.
Perfect timing there. Lordy!
Lordy and their 17 raiders are about to get flattened by dinosaur content.
That's a decent sized raid there, Lordy. Thank you, thank you. And I hope you had an excellent stream. How are things? How did your sewing go? You were working on making some blue jeans today, right? How did your blue jeans creation go, Lordy? I hope it was real good. Welcome, raiders. If anybody who is here in the channel before Lordy raided is not yet following Lordy, you're missing out. She doesn't stream as often as she used to. But if you're interested in... Well, let me put it this way. If you're the sort of person who wears clothing, and you'd like to maybe learn how to make clothing, and would like to see somebody show you how to do that live on stream, go follow Lordy right now. She's a member of my stream team, one of my favorite people. Go follow Lordy. Lordy, thank you again for the raid. We're talking about sauropod dinosaurs and talking about their unusual necks. Because we're doing a dinosaur deep dive on Bruhathkayasaurus. Really mysterious, long-necked dinosaur from India. India. Had a wonderful stream with a lot of good friends. Glad to hear that, Lordy. Excellent. Here. So we're watching a quick clip from Prehistoric Planet with Dreadnoughtus. Right here. Go.
And his display has, so far, intimidated all challengers.
Yeah. A couple of really cool animals that...
is not deterred.
Very cool. Well, if you'd like to see how this fight ends, I'll give you the link. You should really watch Prehistoric Planet if you've not done so yet. I highly recommend it. There's a video right there. The music is really good, Onlysaurus. Hans Zimmer did the music, I believe. Right? Let's see. Who did the music for Prehistoric Planet? Film music legend Hans Zimmer. And also multi-instrumentalist Karatalov and Slovenian composer Anze Rozman did the music for season 2. Very cool. Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. Why would they fight anyway? They're fighting over mates, Rilo Rolo. Kind of like elephant seals do today. I think that's kind of the idea. Just about everything in Prehistoric Planet like that is based on something that occurs in nature. So the idea is, it's kind of like these guys. Yeah. So there's a male and female elephant seal. There's a male right there. Yeah. Holy cow. These are animals that can, like, crush a car. It's pretty extraordinary. Show the one where the elephant seal battles a truck. Can you find that for me, Mayor Space? Or should I look it up? Why do they make fart sounds? That's just how they sound, Lugnudo. Yeah. They're blowing air through their big noses like that. So do you see why this makes sense? Like, it's pretty similar to those Dreadnoughtus fighting, right? The Titanosaurs. Pretty cool. Oh boy. Using those giant teeth to just rip into them through that blubber. And you'll notice the scars that they have on here. All this scar tissue from previous battles that they've had. Yeah. Ken says, I always wondered why great whites only went after baby elephant seals, and then I saw how big an adult was. Yeah. Holy cow. I don't think anything eats the adults while they're alive. Except maybe cookie cutter sharks. Oh boy. Nose got all torn up there. And KCKC, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Elephant seal versus truck. There we go.
Despite posted warning signs, people continue to park their cars too close to the home of this giant elephant seal, and he's not happy about it. So the beast has started to issue his own warnings.
Look, it's unfortunate this is the third vehicle he's done some damage to.
This seal comes right up out of the bay to let these drivers know he means business.
Well, if the gentleman...
That's not the sound they make. So, like, the sound editor threw in a fake noise here. Like, that's the recording of Xylophus californianus. That's a California sea lion. That's not the sound that an elephant seal makes. The that's a sea lion. Not the right sound.
This big guy won't stop until he's finished making his point. Finally, he's all tuckered out and ready to call it a day. But when he heads for home,
completely the wrong sound.
Unhappy drivers have blocked his way. Boy, are they going to be sorry. Soon, the clever seal finds a way back into the water. And hopefully, no one parked their boat in his spot.
Anyway, yeah. And one more. There's a... I think it was in a Japanese zoo? there was a trained elephant seal. I don't know if I can find video of this. Shoot. It might not exist in video form. But there is a famous... elephant seal in Japan. Who would, yeah, hold a bucket like this. Remarkable animal. Yeah, pretty neat. Anyway, elephant seals. Cool critters. Cool critters. They're the biggest pinniped, even bigger than walruses. You might be right, Eric. Yeah, yeah. Here, let's search. I think you're probably right. What is the largest pinniped? The elephant seal. Okay. Well, adult males can grow to be more than 2 tons, as much as a car. Male elephant seals can weigh over 3 tons, even larger than a polar bear. Pretty neat. Yeah. Neat stuff. Yeah. Anyway. And passenger pigeon dinosaur deep dive. Nell, didn't you change it to the Carolina parakeet and we did that? You were there for that, right? I hope you were there for that. If not, go check the VOD. Yeah. Oh, you put in a second one. Well, shoot, I somehow missed that. Let's do that after we do Bruhathkaiosaurus. Yeah, and also, Paleontologist VA. Let's see. Had some photos in the Discord. Claire Burr or Lenina, would you mind going through the Discord and giving me a link to those, maybe? So I don't have to go hunting through myself. I'm honestly not very good at Discord, everybody. Shoot. Let me know. Yeah. And while that's going on, Kirsten says there's a video of a stellar sea lion loading down a sailboat near Seattle. Really? Well, well, well. I've seen this. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That is extraordinary.
That thing is...
Huge sea lions. You know, that's their home. You put your boat in their bay, sometimes this will happen.
I don't think this boat owner likes sea lions anymore.
Well, but the feeling's mutual.
So close to sinking. If that thing eats 3 more salmon, it's done for.
That's excellent. Yeah. Good stuff. And thank you, Claire Burr. Excellent. Old pics of Jim Kirkland here. Thank you, Paleontologist VA, for posting these. This is awesome. Yeah. So there is Utah State paleontologist Jim Kirkland. To those of you who were here for the fieldwork live streams, you saw a lot of Jim. And wow. This is before he adopted his signature suspenders. And this almost looks like a Morrison formation back here. I wonder if this is the Mygat Moor Quarry. Very nice. There we go, yeah. There's Jim right there in his adventure vest days. These are great. Yeah. Very nice. That's super cool. Thank you, Paleontologist VA, for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, Jim Kirkland, one of my favorite people. I actually need to contact Jim about some projects that we're going to be working on together. So yeah, yeah. We've got a dinosaur deep dive request from Steely Dan. Amargasaurus. I feel like Amargasaurus might be the dinosaur we've done the most dinosaur deep dives on, but we'll do it again. First, let's do Bruhathkayasaurus. And then we'll do the passenger pigeon. And then we will do Amargasaurus. Yeah. So, Bruhathkayasaurus, potentially one of the biggest dinosaurs yet found, but unfortunately that's a really difficult idea to test at present, because I think all of the original bones have been lost. I want to say it was some limb bones. Let's take a look. Yeah. Bruhathkayasaurus meaning huge-bodied lizard. An appropriate name, I would say. Yeah. That's from the Kalamedu Formation of India. Fragmentary remains were originally described as a theropod, but it was later determined to be a titanosaurian sauropod. Length estimates by researchers exceed those of the Titanosaur argentinosaurus as longer than 35 meters and weighing over 80 tons. A 2023 estimate placed Bruhathkayasaurus as potentially weighing 110 to 170 tons. Holy cow. If the upper estimates of the 2023 records are accurate, Bruhathkayasaurus may have rivaled the blue whale as one of the largest animals to ever exist. So this calls to mind an important phrase that we have in the sciences, which is as follows. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. If we're claiming that an animal weighed as much as a blue whale but walking around on land, and it was like 150 feet long, well shoot, that's an extraordinary claim. You better have some extraordinary evidence for that. And unfortunately with Bruhathkayasaurus, I think that's mostly missing because the original specimens have been lost. Yep, all the estimates are based on the dimensions of the fossils described in Yadagiri and Ayasami in 1987. And in 2017, it was reported that the holotype fossils had disintegrated and no longer exist. That is disappointing. Yeah, so the holotype was discovered around 1978 near the southern tip of India, northwest of Kalamedu village. It was recovered from rocks of the Kalamedu Formation, dated to the Maastrichtian stage of the late Cretaceous, so from the very end of the age of dinosaurs. Yeah, or maybe 4 million years before, 70 million years ago. But yeah, the last stage of the Cretaceous period, right before the asteroid hits. Yeah. The monsoon season, combined with the sands and clays of the Kalamedu Formation, create water-saturated fossils which are very friable. Friable means they're liable to break up into little pieces. Friable means unconsolidated. It means it can fall apart. Crumble. Crumbly. When you hear the word friable, think crumbly. Crumbly bones. During the dry season, expansion during the day and contraction during the night can cause fossils to split apart. This results in poorly preserved bones that can be impossible to extract without damage. In 2017, Galton and Ayasami reported that the Bruhathkayasaurus fossils started to disintegrate inside their field jackets before reaching the Geological Survey of India and no longer exist. So just like Amphicoelius, whose fossils can no longer be found, it's the same with this critter. Although, those are such incredible estimates for the size of this animal. And I guess they're based on what, limb bones or something? I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of mistake there. Not necessarily like a typo, but maybe there's some kind of goof somewhere along the way. Let's continue reading. Some later studies listed Bruhathkayasaurus as an indeterminate sauropod or as a nomen dubium. Wait, how much did we actually have? The fossilized remains included hip bones, the ilium and the ischium, partial leg bones, femur and tibia, a forearm, radius, and a tailbone, part of a vertebra. That's more than I would have guessed, actually. I thought this would be based on, like, 2 bones. According to the published description, the shin bone, or tibia, of Bruhathkayasaurus was 2 meters long, 6.6 feet. That is extraordinary. That'd be the biggest dinosaur tibia ever found. Are we 100% sure that actually is a tibia? And not a femur? Because if it were a femur, that would make more sense. Yeah, this is 29% larger than the tibia of Argentinosaurus. The fragmentary femur was similarly huge. Across the distal end, it was 2.46 feet. 33% larger than that of Antarctosaurus. That's nuts. Let's see. Oh, in 2019, Greg Paul suggested the supposed tibia was probably a degraded femur. That might make sense. In which case its length was slightly greater than that of Dreadnoughtus and Pseudolonchosaurus. Its ilium is a similar length to that of Dreadnoughtus, whereas the width of the distal femur appears to slightly exceed that of Patagotitan. So it might not be... I mean, it's really difficult to test if it actually is as big as was originally claimed, because we don't have the original fossils anymore. They've disintegrated. Shoot. Although the width of the distal femur appears to slightly exceed that of Patagotitan, that would still mean this is among the largest of the dinosaurs. Just maybe not by far the most gigantic. So yeah. Interesting stuff. Since there isn't a whole lot of material on this animal, maybe we'll watch this kind of goofy looking video right here, which is apparently very new. August 1st, 2023. Let's take a look.
What if I told you that sauropod dinosaurs could be as big as blue whales?
I mean, they were. They were certainly longer than blue whales. And heavier, too. Blue whales are essentially weightless. They live in the water. You put a blue whale on land, and it doesn't go well. I don't recommend doing that.
Yes, you heard me correctly, and no, this video isn't clickbait. It's an analysis of Paul and Larramendi 2023, a paleontological study calculating the sizes of the largest terrestrial animals known to science.
Not a bad video so far. Okay. I don't often like to watch videos like this because I don't want to make it seem like I'm kind of taking somebody else's content like that. So I'm a little bit hesitant to watch this whole thing. We'll watch maybe a minute or two, and then we'll go back to what we were doing.
The sauropod dinosaurs dominated the giant herbivore niche.
There's Mamenchisaurus, like we were talking about the other day.
Continents, diversifying into recognizable groups like the Diplodocids, the Macronarians, and the Titanosaurs. The study is titled Body Mass Estimate of Bruhathkayasaurus and Other Fragmentary Sauropod Remains.
I want to say Titanosaurs are derived from Macronarians, aren't they? Anyway, yeah.
The largest land animals were about...
And Matt says, yep, this video is how I learned about this critter. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, there have been rumors of this animal floating around since, like, the 70s. But they mostly stay as rumors. Kind of reminds me of Amphicelius fragilis a little bit.
About as big as the greatest whales. That is direct and bold, and I appreciate it. Paul and Larramendi sure know how to write a headline. They also know how to estimate the sizes of extinct taxa. They're internationally recognized experts in the subject, in fact, with their 2021 study about Archosaurian-specific gravity stunning the paleo community. In this particular groundbreaking study, they tackled what may be the biggest land animal we've ever discovered, Bruhathkayasaurus motley. So here's the Sparks Notes catch-up for those of you who haven't heard of Bruhathkayasaurus. Giant dinosaur bones discovered in India in the 80s? Maybe a theropod? No. Maybe a tree? No. Disintegrated by floodwaters? Yes. Photographs? Yes. The material's original describers published a new analysis last year, solidifying its status as remnants of a colossal sauropod rather than a piece of petrified tree trunk. The material consists of a tibia, a caudal centrum, the distal portion of an incomplete femur,
slipped my attention last year,
which was tentatively reassigned to a theropod. But where Paul and Ayasami failed to provide a size estimate, Paul and Larramendi succeeded. Different Pauls. Let's set the mood with this spicy quote. The results indicate that super sauropods appeared to have rivaled average-sized blue whales in mass and nearly matching the biggest and rare 200-ton known examples of Balena musculus. And while whales have been truly gigantic for only the last few million years, super sauropods apparently did so continuously, or nearly so, from the late Jurassic to the end of the dinosaur era.
Yep.
Our two heroes reconstructed Bruchefcasaurus's femur length scaling from other giant sauropods. They utilized tibia to femur scaling ratios based on other sauropods.
Pretty standard stuff for this.
Body mass for Bruchefcasaurus, as well as other gigantic sauropods like Marapunosaurus and Argentinosaurus. The variables they calculated included tibia length, femur shaft width, and femur distal width. They used this data to calculate femur length, which is a fairly reliable predictor of overall body mass in tetrapods. Mass was then calculated for Bruchefcasaurus and multiple other sauropods, based on the new specific gravity values for sauropods from Larramendi et al. 2021. These graphs display the linear regression used to
Yeah, anyway, interesting stuff. I'll give you the link to this if you'd like to watch it on your own. But again, this is one of those examples of something that is tantalizingly incomplete. We need more specimens to be able to test these ideas. If this really is the largest animal that ever walked the earth, it's a crying shame that we don't have more material from it. We don't have any material from it right now, apart from those photographs and those measurements. The original specimens are gone. This is actually like a huge problem with vertebrate paleontology in India right now. India has a wealth of remarkable dinosaur fossils, and yet there's not enough funding for museums. Facilities are decrepit and deteriorating, and a lot of old fossil sites are basically garbage dumps now, like in a literal sense. They've become landfills. Areas where you used to be able to go out and discover dinosaur fossils with all this beautiful bare exposed rock, they're now like under garbage dumps. India, should be, by all means, a new, very important frontier in dinosaur paleontology, but unfortunately they're plagued with problems. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Anywho. Let's see. Here we go. This is from 2018. Speaking of this, India's paleontologists fight destruction of its fossil riches. Unique sites fall victim to looting and development. Lucknow and Bagh, India. Last December, paleontologist Guntapalli V.R. Prasad and his team were hunting for signs of dinosaur nests in a limestone hillock near Bagh, a town in central India's Madhya Pradesh state. They found trouble instead. As the group from the University of Delhi found out, along a formation skirting a farm, several people from a nearby village gathered to confront them. Locals often assume that outsiders prowling in their land are government officials bent on appropriating tracts for a pittance in order to develop them, Prasad said. When he started to explain, a man cut him short and told his fellow villagers, "Your land is gone now." Tempers flared, and the scientists, fearing for their safety, beat a retreat. It wasn't always like that, Prasad says, but land grabs from companies, often aided by local officials, have escalated in India. Now he says suspicion and hostility deny us access to fossil sites and seriously harm our work. I was actually not aware of this particular problem. That's really lousy. Shoot. Lack of access is just one of the problems facing India's paleontologists. India has some of the world's greatest paleontological resources, says Nigel Hughes, a paleobiologist at the University of California, Riverside. His findings in the Himalayas have illuminated trilobite evolution. But Indian officials have done little to support a field widely viewed as impractical and esoteric. Oh boy. With few legal protections, sites often fall victim to looting and development. And although funds are scarce for all science in India, the plight of paleontology is particularly acute. Little money is available for excavations and for acquiring and curating specimens. And then the country lacks a national institution in which its natural heritage can be studied and preserved. They don't have a national museum. India does not have, like, a Smithsonian for paleontology. All this discourages young people from entering the field. Cash-strapped universities are curtailing or axing paleontology courses, says Ashok Sani of Punjab University in Chandigarh, a leading figure in Indian paleontology. Sani, best known for his finds of dinosaur nesting sites in Jabalpur and insects trapped in Amber and Vastan in Gujarat state, says he has now watched waves of colleagues retire, with few young talents stepping in to replace them. There is no critical mass of researchers left, he says. Indian paleontology is dying. It's really heartbreaking, honestly. As a remedy for the crisis, Indian and foreign scientists have lobbied for the creation of a Smithsonian-style institution. India critically needs a national repository for scientifically important fossils, Hughes says. A comprehensive fossil repository, Sani added, would be indispensable not only for public education, but also for the discipline. Suppose we get a sample from Vastan, an ankle bone of a rabbit. How will you identify it? In France, Germany, and the US, you have active people working on this, and you have each bone of each living animal, so they can compare. But in India, we have nothing like this, he says. That's a big loss to our science. Yeah. So if you're wondering how important fossils like those of Bryhathkayasaurus may have been allowed to disintegrate like that, it isn't just because... It wasn't just because those are really delicate bones. It's also because this wonderful country lacks the infrastructure to help preserve its remarkable fossil heritage. And again, that's heartbreaking. There are world-class fossils in India, and they should be saved for the Indian people and for the rest of the world too. And that's not happening. As a paleontologist, that's kind of heartbreaking. Anyway, yeah. It is a shame, Indiana, yeah. Yeah. And your boss is Gujarati? Oh, cool, Kennedy. Yeah. And for humanity as a whole, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And Ken says, India just stopped teaching evolution in school? Oh, boy. I mean, their current government is... I'm not going to talk about that right now, but it's, not great. Not great. Anyway. Oh, a bit of a palate cleanser here. Thank you, Smorphosaurus. Posting this. Smorphosaurus is working on a new Corythosaurus drawing. I like that. I really like the patterning there on that frill, and I like how the nasal's going down into the premaxilla. This is all really brightly colored. The predenary also. This is good stuff, Smurf. I like that a lot. These would have been very showy dinosaurs. All too often, dinosaurs like Corythosaurus are portrayed, you know, kind of drab colored like this. These would have been very flamboyant, brightly colored critters. Here's a better one. And that's Michael Skrepnik's work right there. Yeah. That's really nice too. I like the bright colors on the crest. So this is good work, Smurf. I like that a lot. Very nice. So yeah. Yeah. Anywho. So Bryhathkayasaurus. Interesting critter. I wish we actually had good fossil material from it. You know? Maybe someday. The thing is, there will be other specimens out there. If we can just get paleontologists the support they need to go out and dig these things up and then reposit them properly in a museum and preserve them. And there we go. Yeah. Oh, and we have a dinosaur deep dive from Tactile 3D Picture. Another non-dinosaur. Messel Germany, the mini horse. Oh, are you talking about, oh shoot, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't remember the name either, though. We'll have to look it up together. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And there you go, Indiana, yes.
That belongs in a museum.
Yes, indeed. All right, we've got the passenger pigeon to do a dinosaur deep dive on, then a Margosaurus, and then we'll do that Paleogene horse. Yeah. And Matt M33 says, thank you, Danny, that was interesting. You're welcome. Thanks for suggesting an interesting dinosaur like Bruhathkaiosaurus. I tried to provide some insight that you wouldn't get from, like, the Wikipedia article or video like that. Indian dinosaur paleontology is, it's in need of some serious support. Yeah. And Eurohippus, thank you, Claire Burr. That'll make it easier. Yeah. Well. Next up for dinosaur deep dives, we've got another tragic story, unfortunately. The passenger pigeon. Let's take a look.
Passenger pigeons died. We need to understand how they live.
Yep. There we go.
The passenger pigeon was once the most abundant bird in North America, maybe even the world. In the first half of the 19th century, estimates put the number between 3 and 5 billion.
Holy
which would have been
cow.
at least 1/3 of the total bird population of North America today. But while
That's
flocks
crazy.
could block out the sky in 1833, by 1900 there were no wild birds to be found, and by 1914 there were none alive even in zoos. So what happened to make the population go from billions to zero in less than a century? To understand how passenger pigeons die.
I mean, imagine that. Imagine that. The most common bird in North America. Extinct. Think about all of the people at the time who went, oh, you know, well, there's so many of these things. It's, you know, they couldn't possibly all disappear. And then they were literally hunted to extinction. People just killed all of them. Yeah.
We need to understand how they lived, because it was kind of our fault. Passenger pigeons were native to eastern North America and migrated between the regions around the Great Lakes in the north and the Gulf of Mexico in the south. They traveled in huge flocks with hundreds of thousands of pals. When roosting or nesting, it wasn't uncommon for so many birds to perch on a tree that the branches would snap under their combined weight. Sometimes birds would even perch on top of each other just for a place to sleep. Real cozy. This strength in numbers was their main defense against predators like wolves, foxes, weasels, and hawks. The local carnivores could eat themselves sick and still not make a dent in the flock. Ecologists call this predator satiation, and it's a pretty common defense tactic in both plants and animals. It's why groups of oak trees produce almost no acorns for 2 years, then on the 3rd year, it's an acorn party. It's also why cicadas reproduce periodically, why salmon clog streams during their breeding season, and why caribou travel in massive herds. Now, passenger pigeons work together to raise their young and find food like nuts, seeds, and berries. So when humans started cutting down forests to plant crops, pigeons went after those grains too. And as you might guess, that made them pretty unpopular with farmers. But really, everything changed when we started hunting the pigeons as a commercial food source, because they were apparently super tasty. The expansion of train networks made it possible for hunters to kill and ship the birds nationwide. And it wasn't hard, because they traveled in dense, low-flying flocks. Hunters could basically just swing a stick and hit a couple birds. To satisfy the demand, hunters started using baited traps and controlled fires to kill more birds in one go. They even burned sulfur below pigeon nests to suffocate them, collecting the bodies as they fell from the trees. The pigeons were apparently so tasty that no one questioned whether eating birds killed by fire and smoke was a good idea or not. Even as late as the 1870s, people thought there were so many pigeons that it wasn't possible to hunt them too much. But once their flock numbers dipped too far, the situation got dire. By 1900, the only surviving birds lived in zoos across the Midwest, and on
Which is nuts. I mean, that's the thing, is that when you're like hunting these birds commercially on a mass scale, it's just a matter of time until they're all gone. You know? And once that does become a commercial concern like that, once that big, capitalist machine starts rolling, and, the gears are lubricated with the blood of these pigeons, it won't stop. Their numbers might decline, and then, different companies, they're competing to gather all of this pigeon meat. It's not like they're going to stop. There's no economic incentive for them to stop. It'll just keep going and going and going until they're all dead. And that's exactly what happened.
On September 1st, 1914, the last captive passenger pigeon, named Martha after Martha Washington, died at the age of 29. Looking back, scientists have tried to figure out why the passenger pigeon couldn't survive in smaller flocks, like maybe they couldn't defend themselves or breed successfully. In 2014, a group of scientists published a paper suggesting that passenger pigeon populations likely fluctuated even before modern humans arrived. In fact, they may have been in a natural decline that they had recovered from in past cycles, but then humans came in, messed around, and ended up being the last nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
These scientists used ecological models that generally say that bigger populations mean larger effective population size, which is a measure of how many individuals are making babies and contributing to the total gene pool. And the neutral theory of molecular evolution suggests that the effective population size should be linked to DNA variations called neutral mutations, which don't really affect survival. Basically, more breeding adults means more neutral mutations randomly cropping up. So theoretically, large populations should result in high genetic diversity from bird to bird. But according to their DNA analyses, genetic variation between passenger pigeons was low despite how many there were. Based on that fact, the researchers estimated that the pigeon population dipped down in cycles, which could explain why the billions of birds seen in the 1800s seemed like not so distant relatives. This idea was seemingly supported by pollen records from the last 20,000 odd years, suggesting that acorn production varied enough that huge bird populations couldn't always survive. However, a 2017 study suggested that the lack of genetic diversity came from a rapid evolutionary adaptation instead. These scientists pointed out that there are plenty of populations whose size doesn't correlate with genetic diversity. And this might have to do with how new mutations can spread. When organisms make sperm and eggs, there's a mix and match process where DNA gets swapped around
meiosis.
Recombination. This makes it so every offspring has a unique set of genes. But recombination involves swapping big chunks of DNA. So as an advantageous gene spreads like wildfire, whole stretches of DNA spread. That could explain why there doesn't seem to be a lot of genetic diversity in some big populations, like passenger pigeons, despite what the neutral theory suggests. So these researchers think that the pigeon population was always big, and that their huge drop-off in their numbers probably wasn't normal, so it was largely our fault. It's a gloomy thought that we caused the passenger pigeon extinction, but it did inspire the first wide-scale laws aimed at species conservation. In the 1890s, there was almost no regulation on hunting or killing any kind of wildlife, but in 1900, this looming extinction inspired a federal law prohibiting interstate shipping of illegally hunted game. 13 years later...
So before then, it was legal to ship illegally hunted game? Did I catch that correctly? Sir, looks here like you're carrying some illegally hunted game, in an interstate capacity. Move along. Keep going. Let's keep the line going. How was that legal before? Oh boy, yeah. And Lugnudo, that's really interesting actually. Lugnudo says that's almost what happened with elephants around the same time. I guess, yeah, people who made pool balls were smart enough to realize that they were going to run out of elephants and put out a reward for whoever came up with a suitable replacement material. That's very interesting, Lugnudo. That's very interesting. So pool balls used to be made of elephant ivory? Like billiard balls? I did not know that. I'll have to look into that. It kind of reminds me of horseshoe crabs and their blood. Maybe we'll watch a video about that right after this. Because that is, that's interesting.
inspired a federal law prohibiting interstate shipping of illegally hunted game. 13 years later, the Weeks-McLean Act added a ban on hunting migratory birds in the spring when many species are breeding. It also banned imports of wild bird feathers used for fashion. Today, we have many such laws protecting wildlife, and we keep a much closer eye on endangered species, so we can hopefully prevent more stories like the passenger pigeon. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow, which is produced by Complexly, a group of people who believe the more we understand.
Yep. Anyway. Interesting stuff. There is another passenger pigeon video that I wanted to show you. I think we've watched it before, but this is the very last of the passenger pigeons, right here.
Martha's special because she was the last passenger pigeon in existence. She died in September of 1914 at the Cincinnati Zoo and was shipped to the Smithsonian in a big block of ice by railroad. This extinction was kind of special because it was very extraordinary, because at one point there were billions and billions of these birds in North America, and to have such a mass extinction was pretty remarkable. In the 1860s, they were still...
Gonna have a well, actually moment here. Well, actually, the term mass extinction means that you've got more than 50% of species on Earth going extinct at a given time. And so this wouldn't be a mass extinction, it's just an extinction. Not just an extinction. Like, that's huge. That's heartbreaking. That's tragic that this once extremely numerous species went extinct, but that's an extinction. Mass extinction implies you've got thousands upon thousands of species going extinct all at the same time. Like, more than 50% of species going extinct. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Have such a mass extinction.
And Tommy Platicus says, I bet to Martha it felt like a mass extinction. Yeah, probably pretty lonely.
It was pretty remarkable. In the 1860s, they were still fairly plentiful. Before that, there were billions. Audubon and other naturalists wrote of standing in one spot and having passenger pigeons fly over them nonstop for like 3 or 4 days, sometimes up to 7 days. The passenger pigeon went extinct primarily due to habitat loss and commercial harvesting of the birds for food, for protein, to feed livestock.
Harvesting sounds so euphemistic. I'm surprised that this guy would use that term. I mean, it's mass slaughter. It's what it is. Harvesting sounds so defanged. It sounds bloodless. It sounds clinical. It sounds like a euphemism. It was mass slaughter.
The railroads provided a cheap and economical way and rapid way at the time to transport the birds that they harvested to the major metropolitan areas, Philadelphia, New York, Washington, D.C., where they were used as a food supply.
And there she is. Wow. Yeah. We had a question from Peter Steves. Peter Steve wants to know what would be the correct term for just one species going extinct. That would just be extinction. Mass extinction is mass. It's extinction on a mass scale. More than half of species on Earth going extinct. That's a mass extinction. But then on the other end of the scale, you can have what we call local extinctions, or extirpation is the term there. Extirpation is when, like, one population of living things gets wiped out. So a good example might be the California grizzly. So here on our flag in California, we've got the grizzly bear, the California grizzly. This, to me, makes me really sad, because these guys have been extirpated. They are locally extinct. There are no more grizzlies in California. Completely wiped out. So this is what we call extirpation. That's when you have a species that's totally wiped out from one area. It might exist, it does exist in other areas, but if it goes extinct, if it dies out across the whole world, then it's extinct. If it's in one area, like the California grizzly bear, then it's extirpated. Although, complicating things a little bit further, I think the California grizzly was considered to be a unique subspecies of grizzly bear, and so that subspecies is extinct. Because it didn't exist anywhere else, only in California. So it's that one subspecies, the California grizzly, is extinct now throughout the whole world. But grizzly bears in general were extirpated from California. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Yeah. And Ken says people would be dying left and right if there were still grizzlies in California. No, you could still have them in remote areas. There's areas of California that have got like similar population density to areas of Wyoming, Ken. You could still have grizzlies up in the Sierras or I don't know. Yeah, California. California is the biggest, well, it's the biggest state in terms of population. It's third largest, excuse me, in terms of area. After Alaska and then Texas and then California. But don't tell the Texans that. They're convinced that they're number one in everything. And we try not to spoil it for them. They're very sensitive, those Texans. You've got to be very delicate with their feelings. So yeah. Anyway, Lenina says, not this Texan. There you go, Lenina. That's why we love you. But yeah. Oh, and Kirsten says that's why Washington is proposing putting grizzlies way up in the North Cascades. Nice. That's the thing, is that if you just leave grizzlies alone, they'll eventually get to Washington State. It would take them a lot longer to get to Washington, D.C. Although honestly, they could probably do some good. Shake up things in Washington a bit. Anyway, yeah, we've already got grizzlies in northern Montana, and it's just, quick hop, skip, and a jump. Through, over the Continental Divide across the Idaho Panhandle, Horde of Grizzly Bears 2024. Maybe they'd finally do something about climate change, because so far nobody's doing anything. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I mean the cat. There you go, Kennedy. California Burbs just gave us a shout-out. Shoot, can we get a shout-out for California Burbs? Let's fire that right back. Big broadside from the Paleontologizing main guns there. Back to California Burbs. If you are not yet following California Burbs, who just shouted us out on their channel, I can see that in my activity feed here, you should really check them out. There we go. In fact, here they are. Yeah. This is a channel on Twitch where you can watch birds and other critters like this squirrel hang out live. There's no birds at the feeders right now that I can see. But there's a very fuzzy squirrel. Anyway, go check out California Burbs. Great place to hang out. Good stuff. Normally they have more birds. But, yeah. Anyhow. Anyhow. If only we could see California bears. Yeah, you gotta go to a zoo for that. Or maybe a certain kind of bar. But I digress. I did see the Owl channel last night. Very nice, TMK. I hope you enjoyed that. Hoot House livestream, another great Twitch channel. Also featuring some living dinosaurs. Yeah. Oh, and here is a link Speaking of bears. Well, well, well.
The grizzly bear is one of California's most iconic symbols. After all, it's right there on the state flag. But you won't find any in the wild in California. A fierce predator, the last of them were killed off in the 1920s. Now a conservation group wants to bring them back.
We think if people are willing, we could share parts of California with grizzlies again.
There's tons of black bears in California. Yeah, Kennedy, absolutely. No grizzlies, though.
Biological Diversity has started an online petition urging the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to consider the feasibility.
Oh, what a grim graphic right there. I mean, it is more accurate than our current flag. Oh, boy. Yeah.
Petition urging the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to consider the feasibility of bringing back the grizzly.
Peter Steve says, I wonder why no grizzlies. They were exterminated. They were systematically hunted down and wiped out. There is I think the California government actually put a bounty on them, and the express purpose was to just kill them all. Like, criminal. Awful, awful, awful. And you know, ecosystem hasn't been the same since.
It's garnered more than 20,000 signatures. Why bring back a dangerous animal, and where would you put them? Well, conservationists say large predators help keep ecosystems healthy.
That's true. And they're not calling Ursus arctos horribilis like this, the grizzly or brown bear, calling it a predator is not 100,000% correct. It's thought that the California grizzly was mostly herbivorous. People who wrote about exploring California prior to the gold rush, and they would encounter hundreds of grizzlies, all like in a big meadow, just walking around eating grass and digging up grubs and stuff like that. Like, it's not like they're all hunting big game or anything. They're not chasing down elk or eating baby deer or anything. It's thought that the California grizzly was even more herbivorous than most grizzlies are in other states. This subpopulation, this distinct population in California, they're mostly eating plant material, it seems.
Say the bear should go into the remote wilderness, possibly the Sierra Nevada mountain range.
The good news is we're not on the menu. You know, we're not a preferred food item for grizzly bears. They're not seeking us out.
But state wildlife officials call the issue a non-starter. With nearly 40 million people in the state, they say
there's more than that, I think.
Problematic. They fear that they may stray from the wilderness looking for food. They might kill livestock, or break into a home, or even worst case scenario, kill a human.
But people do this all the time, so I don't know. It's like, as human beings, we're so scared of, non-human species, but it's like, shoot, you're so much more likely to get run over by some guy on his phone driving a Tesla than you are to get killed by a grizzly. I don't know. Yeah. And frankly, that's a much cooler way to die. If, for being real about this, I would much rather get killed and eaten by a grizzly than, run over by some tech bro driving a Tesla. Everybody's got to go out somehow. At least it's a good story,
Are pretty adamant that they can be brought back safely. The bottom line is there seems to be a growing debate about the future of a species that once roamed the nation's most populous state.
Anyway, yeah. Ken says, I choose Tesla over being eaten alive? Well, presumably you'd be dead before it eats you. But think about that. Think about how many people have been killed by Teslas. It's got to be a lot nowadays. A lot. So much more special to get eaten by a bear. You're joining like an elite rank of people who... So few people have been killed and eaten by grizzly bears. Like, you could probably count the number, like, on your fingers. Whereas there's probably that many people every hour who are killed by Teslas. So yeah. Anyway. Cats are the only thing that consistently kill the animal prior to eating. Are you sure about that, Ken? What about Venus flytraps? Or no, maybe not. I'm thinking about pitcher plants. Sorry. Yeah. Anywho. Yeah. How could you not want that, says Patrick Crusader? I would think they'd probably just, you know, because you'd be moving around if they're trying to eat you. They'd probably just deliver a, you know, fairly swift bite to the back of your head, you know, right there, base of your neck. And then it's over, you know? I don't know. I just really, really despise the idea of being run over by one of these Teslas. They're so low to the ground. Like, in order to die from that, you either fly over the hood or you get dragged underneath. I don't even want to think about that. Ugh. Ugh. Give me a bear any day. Yowza. Aspie says, real Americans get run over by Ford F-150s. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I agree, Ken. Elephants, billiard balls, and piano keys. This was interesting. Let's... Huh. I searched elephants, billiard balls, and piano keys. And this is something that came up. A little bit of a palate cleanser here. Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yes, I got that.
Yeah, you know, it's about the notes that the elephant doesn't play. That's jazz, baby. Look at that head. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, here, let's take a look at this. We had some clever person in chat bring up, I don't know if this is an apocryphal story or if it's 1,000,000% true, but I guess billiard balls used to be made out of ivory, like elephant tusks. And then, yeah, someone came up with a way to make them out of another material. I guess we're going to learn about that right now.
Materials scientist Scott Ramsey is in New York City. Here, in the 19th century, concerns over the ivory trade led to the development of a world-changing material.
Huh.
Which came from an unlikely place. Billiards.
Okay.
Some of the key players in the ivory trade were the billiard...
Uh-oh. That to me looks like an ivory smuggler. I mean, look. Look at the way he walks. Look at how he's dressed. And look at the giant elephant tusk that he has over his shoulder right there. That is sure sign of an ivory smuggler. Very shady indeed, Claire Burr. See how brazen this is right now? You know? Just walking down the street in broad daylight with an elephant tusk over his shoulder. Oh boy. He's lucky I'm not there right now.
Players in the ivory trade were the billiard ball manufacturers. Tragically, one elephant tusk, such as this enormous yet accurately sized replica, could only be used...
Oh, okay. Okay, sir, you can go about your business. It's just a replica. Stapler says he may have found it in an alley. Oh, yeah, you know, yeah, it fell off a truck. Yeah, don't worry about it.
to make 4 at most, and more often than not, a measly accurately sized replica can only be used to make 4 at most.
Red team, stand down. Yes. Red leader, do not deploy proton torpedoes.
Can only be used to make 4 at most, and more often than not, a measly 2 balls.
2 billiard balls.
Such a crucial resource, and the possibility of going out of business. One billiard ball manufacturer, Phelan & Collender, located right here on 10th Avenue, offered a $10,000 reward.
Wait, they were feeling the colander?
Phelan & Collender.
This is an expression I'm not familiar with, but you know, you live and you learn, I guess. I guess that's like feeling the winds of change, or anticipating, you know, a bad moon rising. Feeling the colander, you know, you run your hand along it, you feel all the holes, you go, I can use that for spaghetti. Yeah, feeling the colander.
And the possibility of going out of business. One billiard ball manufacturer, Phelan &
One billy ball manufacturer was feeling the colander. I think I know what he's actually saying. I think the closed captioning kind of misinterpreted this. I think that's the name of the billiard ball manufacturer. Phelan Colanders. Anyway. I'm going to choose to interpret it as they were feeling the colander. You know, they were reading the tea leaves. They were feeling the colander there. They knew it was coming.
And the possibility of going out of business. One billiard ball manufacturer, Phelan & Collender, located right here on 10th Avenue, offered a $10,000 reward to find an alternative material.
In their attempt
and of course, that's exactly what you want to do when you're playing billiards. You always want to get the cue ball into the pocket, right?
If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Oh.
And that simple statement is the key to science.
It
doesn't
is.
make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are, who made the guess, or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. That's all there is to it.
There you go. Ishirna.
And their 31 raiders are both beautiful and smart, and their raid agrees with experiment.
Thank you, Ishirna, for that raid. Welcome to Paleontologizing. How are you doing? It's great to have you here. Welcome back. Howdy, howdy. Yeah. Ishirna, you were doing some art. Were you doing some glass blowing, perhaps? Some glass work? Awesome. It's great to have you here. If anybody's here for the very first time, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist. Here on Twitch doing some good old-fashioned science outreach, you know? And we're talking about extinction. We're talking about human-caused extinctions and how some are possible to be avoided. We can avoid driving creatures into extinction if sometimes we can come up with alternatives to, you know, the industries that want to grind them into dust or that sort of thing. So, yeah. And Neverwinter Fool says, I love that Feynman got to play the bongos in Oppenheimer. But I haven't seen it yet. No spoilers. I'm going to see it on Friday with Ios. We're going to see Oppenheimer. Or was it Barbie? Barbenheimer? Whatever. But yeah. Anyway, that was Richard Feynman there in the alert. Good eyes. Yeah. Anyway. This guy is brazenly walking down the street with a replica elephant tusk and talking about how billiards almost drove elephants into extinction, I guess, but then some people got wise and decided that's not a good idea. Let's find an alternative.
Feline resource and the possibility of going out of. Tragically, one elephant tusk, such as this enormous yet accurately sized replica, can only be used to make 4 at most, and more often than not, a measly 2 balls. Faced with the loss of such a crucial resource.
Again, that's exactly what you want to do. That's the object of pool, right? Is you always want to get the white ball in after the other ball? There you go.
Faced with the loss of such a crucial resource and the possibility of going out of business, one billiard ball manufacturer, Phelan & Collender, located right here in
Phelan and Colander. Thank you, St. Louis Mo. This did allow us to create a brand new phrase, though. You know, rather than reading the tea leaves or feeling the winds of change, sensing the winds of change, you feel the colander. Feeling the colander. I might have to use that from now on. But yeah. Anyway.
10th Avenue offered a $10,000 reward to find an alternative material.
In their attempt to develop new materials for billiard balls, engineers developed many forms of plastic, including one called Parkasine.
Parkasine and other early plastics were a combination of cellulose, nitric acid, and sulfuric acid. While it could be easily molded into a
wow, sounds like pleasant stuff. I'm sure all of these were sculpted by hand, right?
variety of things, they're prone to cracking, and so their broader application was quite limited.
But upon seeing the billiard ball manufacturer's $10,000 reward, John Wesley Hyatt, a printer and inventor from Albany, New York, tried using different additives to improve the nitrocellulose material.
Hyatt discovered the importance of one key ingredient, camphor, found in the wood of a laurel tree. If we take this bowl of pasta to represent molecules of nitrocellulose, you can see in their current state they really stick together.
So this is the sort of thing that I feel would be right at home on Freckled Chemist's channel. Has Amanda streamed recently? I've not seen her online, but let's get a shout out for Freckled Chemist here. She does chemistry live on stream, and she is herself a PhD student in chemistry. She's working on her doctorate. She will soon be Dr. Amanda. And she's busy with doctorate. Okay, that makes sense. Freckled Science, I'm sorry. She was Frecked Chemist before she was Freckled Science. Somehow the L got left out. That's when I first encountered her on Twitch years ago. Yeah, it used to be Frecked Chemist with no L. It's very Amanda. One of the more entertaining science channels here on Twitch, for certain. Go check out Freckled Science. Yeah, I remember when she was Frecked Chemist. She's great. Yeah. Anyway, this is the sort of thing that, you know, might be a demonstration on her channel.
Key ingredient, camphor, found in the wood of a laurel tree. If we take this bowl of pasta to represent molecules of nitrocellulose, you can see in their current state they really stick together, and it wouldn't make a very useful plastic. So what we need is a short little molecule to get in between these and free them up so they can slide past one another. In modern terms, we call that a plasticizer, and in Hyatt's day, that was the camphor. So if we take this olive oil to represent the camphor, Hyatt realized by adding just the right amount.
Oh, cool, John Drew. I don't know if I'm familiar with Professor Melko.
And create a moldable plastic.
Okay.
With camphor added to the nitrocellulose, Hyatt invented a unique material that could be molded, cut, shaped, and polished with ease.
Very cool.
He used it to manufacture not just billiard balls, but false teeth and piano keys too.
There we go.
He created a material that was strong, easy to form, and an ideal replacement for ivory. He called his material celluloid, and it's considered to be the forerunner of modern plastics.
Nice. This guy's good at pool. So there you go. I guess that's one of the reasons why elephants are not yet extinct. Hopefully they will never be.
Lifestyles of the large and extinct.
Vesper Doom, thank you for the follow. Let's hope elephants don't join their ranks. But thank you for the follow, Vesper Doom. Welcome, welcome. Yeah. You know, speaking of materials that are currently harvested from
this blue
from living creatures, potentially endangered creatures. Let's take a look at this video about horseshoe crabs and their blood, which is used in the biomedical industry. Take a look.
This bluish liquid is one of the most expensive resources in the world.
Yep.
No, it's not the blue milk from Star Wars. It's actually blood. from a horseshoe crab.
Oof.
And the stuff this blood makes costs $60,000 a gallon.
Holy cow.
So why is it so expensive? And who's buying horseshoe crab blood? The blue color comes from copper.
For once, it's not tech bros. tech ghouls from Silicon Valley. Oh, I've got to drink the horseshoe crab blood to stay young. No, it's actually used in the biomedical industry. Yeah, for like making sure that certain compounds are safe for injection into the human body. Yeah.
In the blood. But that's not its most interesting feature. The blood contains a special
Goop.
clotting
Oh no,
agent.
Tommy Platypus.
It's used to make a concoction called limulus amoebocyte lysate, or LAL. Before LAL, scientists had no easy way of knowing whether a vaccine or medical tool was contaminated with bacteria, like E. coli or salmonella.
Oof.
Scientists would inject vaccines into huge numbers of rabbits and then basically wait for symptoms to show up. But when LAL was approved for use in 1970, it changed everything.
Huh.
Drop a minuscule amount of it onto a medical device or vaccine, and the LAL will encase any gram-negative bacteria in a jelly cocoon.
Huh.
While it can't kill the bacteria, the jelly seal is like a fire alarm, alerting us to the presence of what could become a potentially lethal infection and prevent it from spreading.
Very cool.
Each year, the medical industry catches around 600,000 horseshoe crabs.
Oh
the
boy.
crabs are drained of 30% of their blood, and up to 30% of the crabs don't live through the process.
Oh no.
The
It might be more than that, honestly.
Survivors are returned to the...
Oh, well, shoot. About 30% of them die in the laboratory, I guess. Then the rest are returned, and who knows how many of them die. Yeah.
600,000 horseshoe crabs.
Ugh.
The crabs are drained of 30% of their blood, and up to 30% of the crabs don't live through the process. The survivors are returned to the water, but no one really knows how well or if they recover.
Yeah.
In 2016, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature bumped the American horseshoe crab up to vulnerable on its red list.
Ooh,
one
boy.
step below endangered.
Yeah.
And the U.S. population could keep falling by as much as 30% over the next 40 years. LAL labs claim that the returned crabs eventually recover, but new evidence suggests that's not always the case.
Neverwinter says there's a synthetic alternative to LAL. Is there? I really hope so, because the whole point of me showing this video was I don't think we have a synthetic alternative yet, and once somebody comes up with one, that could save the horseshoe crab.
Wynne Watson is trying to figure out what happens to the crabs when they're put back in the sea.
So, most
I remember the last time we watched this video. Oh, boy. Can anybody spot the license plate there in his office? And what does it say? It's got the genus name for the horseshoe crab. And that looks like a New Hampshire license plate? Limulus. Yeah. There we go. Excellent. This is somebody who's passionate about his work, and that's really awesome. Limulus is the genus name for the horseshoe crab. Yeah, that's the scientific name for the horseshoe crab genus. That's really cool. That reminds me of, shoot, back when I lived in Montana. I had a license plate. Yeah. Good stuff. That was, this is on my old FJ Cruiser when I had that as a field vehicle. Oh, and shoot, before that it was on my Suzuki Samurai. Yeah. Anyway, big respect to a scientist who's got that.
So, the most immediate negative effect is mortality. Anywhere from 10 to 25% of the animals will die within the first couple of days after bleeding.
Bled crabs become disoriented and weak for a period of time, and females may have trouble spawning.
If they survive the first I'll say 2 weeks, and they're back in their natural habitat, they did pretty well.
But it's getting through those 2 weeks that's the issue.
You know, based on our data and others, I think that you need to treat them a little. If you're going to get increase your survival rate, right, you need to treat them better.
Scientists are trying to find a synthetic alternative to help reduce the strain on the horseshoe crab population. But so far, LAL is still required by the FDA for this type of testing. So if these animals really aren't recovering at the rate companies previously thought, we might eventually run out of crabs to bleed. If that happens, our lives and the lives of countless rabbits might be at risk.
So that's a horseshoe crab, which is neither a crab, nor is it a horseshoe. So, genus Limulus like this is, let's see. Let me show you. We'll go to our tree of life here. Limulus. There we go. It's a group that's outside of, like, spiders and arachnids and other arthropods. There we go. Horseshoe crabs. Merostomata. Yeah. So they're related to spiders, mites, and scorpions. They're not closely related to crabs. They are not crustaceans, which is interesting. These guys have been around since long before the dinosaurs. I think the first horseshoe crabs show up around 500 million years ago. So like a full 260 million years before the first dinosaurs. Pretty cool. So they've been on Earth for a tremendous amount of time. And Chelicerata, exactly, Ken. Yes, indeed. Yeah. But let's look up. Apparently, we've now got a synthetic alternative. Pyrostar Neo. What is this about? Yeah. Oh boy, we're doing. This is not a sponsored stream, I promise. Endotoxin to toxin reagents developed by recombinant technology. It mimics traditional LAL. That is the compound that's in horseshoe crab blood. Has it been approved by the FDA, though? Request quote. Quote here. Is Pyrostar Neo FDA approved? I'm not 100% sure it is. Yeah. Reject all. Has it been FDA approved, though? I'm not sure this has been yet. It might not have been approved by the FDA, which is the Federal Drug Administration. No, Food and Drug Administration, which is a federal agency in the United States to ensure that food and drugs are safe for use. So yeah. But maybe somebody in chat has got better news on this than I do. Yeah. US FDA approved the first drug using RFC instead of traditional LAL-based methods. Nice. That's good to hear. Yeah. Anyway, there's a group of animals that's been on Earth since 260 million years before the dinosaurs first evolved. And now, hopefully, they will not see an untimely extinction because of human overharvesting. Just like elephants. You know, elephant tusks are no longer used for billiard balls or piano keys. Anywho, what's our next dinosaur deep dive here? I think we've got Amargasaurus, and then we had a non-dinosaur, right? We had Amargasaurus, and then, oh yeah, then Eurohippus. Let's jump into Amargasaurus here, shall we? Amargasaurus is a really cool dinosaur. For a number of different reasons. Here we go. Really cool sauropod dinosaur from the late Cretaceous of South America, from Argentina. Amargasaurus is one of these dinosaurs that gets portrayed all the time in different dinosaur media. It shows up in different documentaries, lots of different dinosaur toys. Shoot, we've got it in Jurassic World Evolution 2 right here. Oh boy, that mouth opened in a way that was very unnatural. Amargasaurus right here. Very cool sauropod dinosaur. The thing is, Amargasaurus is only known from one specimen. We only have one specimen of this animal. We don't know if the original one was mature or not. Maybe it was full grown, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it would have looked different as an adult if it's not full grown. It's one of these dinosaurs that's become very popular, but we only got one skeleton of it, and that one is not complete. So let's take a look. This is a mounted skeleton, I think, in an Australian museum. Makes sense. It's a Gondwanan dinosaur. Yeah. The only known skeleton was discovered in 1984 and is virtually complete. Okay, it's more complete than I remember. Including a fragmentary skull, making Amargasaurus one of the best-known sauropods of its epoch. Was first described in 1991 from the La Amarga Formation, hence the name, of Argentina, Barremian to late Aptian, so it's actually earlier than I thought. For some reason, I thought it was Maastrichtian. It's completely wrong. Yeah. Not the biggest of the sauropods. Certainly not. But it's got these really cool spines coming off of its neck like that. Extensions of the neural spines on the cervical vertebrae. There we go. Gabrielle Rayliv says, finally a different shirt. Really? That's your first message? I wear a different shirt almost every stream. Some of them might look similar, but go back and pay closer attention. It's almost always a different shirt. I'm glad you... Welcome to Paleontologizing. Thanks for chiming in. But I'm a little hurt. Really? You weren't looking closely at my shirts? It's a different shirt every day. Just some of them look similar to one another. You know? Yeah. Anyway. Amargasaurus. This is why I thought it was Maastrichtian. These two dinosaurs never would have met. You often see them together in reconstructions and stuff. But Carnotaurus and Amargasaurus are from tens of millions of years apart from one another. There's a lot of time separating these two critters, despite being from the same country. Yeah. There is the amount of the skull that's actually known, so basically the proximal part of the skull. And yeah. So Amargasaurus is what we call a Dicraeosaurid. So it's this group of dinosaurs, this group of sauropods that I think is kind of close to diplodocids, like Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Barosaurus. But Dicraeosaurids tend to have shorter necks. They tend to be a little bit smaller and stockier. Whether that's because we just haven't found very large ones yet. Maybe they're not mature. Maybe they just didn't get very big. I think we don't know 100% for sure about that. But this tends to be a group of sauropods that's a little bit smaller. And Brachytrachelopan right there in the green has got a very short neck. I think it's the shortest neck of any adult sauropod. It's a weird group. It is a weird group, the Dicraeosaurids. They're pretty neat. Anyway, the characteristic of Amargasaurus that is most distinct are these crazy neural spines coming off of the cervical vertebrae. So neural spines are... Well, we as humans have the same thing. Actually, if you take your hand, you run it along the back of your neck. Here, maybe like put your chin against your chest and then run your hand along the back of your neck like that. You'll feel a series of bumps. Those are your neural spines. So on your vertebrae, there's a little spine that sticks up like that. It's called a neural spine. In all other animals, in humans, I guess it's called a spinous process, because humans have to be so special. It's the same thing. In these guys, it's super, super long. And it's been debated for a long time. Were these coated with a sheath of keratin? Almost like the same material as like a rhinoceros's horn or your fingernails? Were they like long, sharp spines coated with a keratin material? Or would the flesh and skin of the neck have covered those? And I think there was a paper that was published a couple years ago. We actually covered this live on stream shortly after it came out. I'm pretty sure the idea that it was mostly covered by flesh and skin is the idea that was supported by this paper. Let's take a look. Yeah. Vertebral spines. In 2022, there we go. A detailed study by Ignacio Acerda and colleagues are analyzing the structure, morphology, and microanatomy of the vertebral spines of Amargasaurus and an indeterminate Dicraeosaurid, also from the La Marga Formation, suggested that the spines were not covered in a keratinous sheath as previously believed. Osteohistology of the spines, so basically cutting the bones open and looking at their internal structure, suggests that they were likely, if not exclusively, covered in a sail of skin. The spines are also highly vascularized and bear cyclical growth marks, adding credence to this theory. Not theory, that's a hypothesis. This is poorly worded. But yeah, so this idea that they would have been covered by a sheath of skin like that makes a lot more sense. And honestly, that makes a lot more sense to me too. Rather than those being like, spines that are open to the air. Instead, you've got the same sort of feature that's evolved in a bunch of different dinosaurs before. You've got this tall structure. In these guys, it was probably for display, and I love how in this illustration, they've got those stripes and that bright coloration on there. Very showy for showing off to one another. And some other dinosaurs, we've got elongated neural spines over the back. Like, we're talking about Spinosaurus, talking about Uranosaurus, talking about Acrocanthosaurus. But in those guys, it seems to be more structural than anything else. To my eyes, at least. For holding up the torso, like a suspension bridge. With these guys, it really seems like it's mostly for show. So who knows what kind of soft tissue nonsense they had going on with those. It's very cool, though. It's very cool. Yeah. Yeah. And Pseudo May says, you don't usually see bones sticking out of the body. Yeah. I hope to not see that, at least. Compound fractures are not fun to look at. Yeah, agreed. So it makes sense that this would be covered up. You do see it in animals with horns, or spikes, or dorsal plates. But, yeah. Usually it's not, like, sticking out of the vertebrae, So, yeah. TMK says, do any animals today have bare bone visible? yes and no. You look at an animal like a cassowary, with their casque on top of their head. That's not necessarily bone sticking out of the top of the head. It is covered by keratin, which is the same material that covers the beak. It's like also claw or horn material, keratin, like your fingernails. There is a bony core to that. There we go. Like you see in... Oh, please, embiggen. I don't know if that's gonna get bigger. But anyway, there's a bony core underneath, but it's sheathed with keratin. There you go. Yeah. So that's covered by a horn-like material called keratin in life. Yeah. So yeah, the idea is that a Margosaurus, maybe its spines, if they weren't covered by skin, they would have been covered by a similar kind of material, horn like that, keratin. It's not unprecedented, I suppose, but maybe for neural spines on the neck to be covered with keratin, maybe that is unprecedented. Maybe we don't have examples of that, come to think of it. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. An Iberian ribbed newt. Now, I'm not familiar with that. So they've got little tiny spines? Yeah. But are those extensions of the ribs, or are those osteoderms? Are those bones in the skin? Here, let's take a look. Yeah.
What makes an animal weird to us is that it does something that we can't do. I've accepted the fact that most birds can fly and that fish can breathe underwater. But if I was just finding out about that, my mind would be blown. Wait, breathing? Underwater? It's the abilities that we haven't been exposed to that really bend our understanding of the universe. Like frogs that can survive being literally frozen solid in the winter. Like little frog bricks. And then thaw out in spring, no problem. Or deep sea snails.
I mean, they don't freeze completely solid. I mean, it's not like their heart stops, I don't think. But yeah.
Armor out of iron. Really comic book level superpower stuff. But sometimes, evolution takes it even further. A prime
I've never seen
example
this channel
of
before.
Kind
This
of
is interesting.
Super bizarre beast is the Spanish or Iberian ribbed newt. It's found in both Spain and Portugal, as well as in Morocco. And it's a relatively large newt, about 30 centimeters or so in length. These newts prefer to live in deep, quiet pools like ponds and cisterns, rarely leaving the water. And they spend their days snacking on small prey like insects and worms, and sometimes plants when prey is scarce. It all sounds very chill. But when they're threatened by a predator, well, they basically become the newt version of Wolverine from X-Men. This unassuming looking amphibian is also called the sharp-ribbed newt for good reason. Because it can poke the pointy ends of its ribs out through its skin to stab anything that's trying to mess with it. They do this by arching their backs and rotating their ribs forward, which stretches the skin over the rib ends until they just slide on through. For people, that's an all-caps medical emergency. But for the newt, it's just a flesh wound. Being able to rotate their ribs doesn't actually...
That's also weird that their ribs like kind of stick straight out to the sides. They don't curve around like they do in us or in, you know, dinosaurs. You've got the rib cage that goes down around like that. Instead, the ribs just kind of stick out to the sides in these newts. Is that how that works? That's kind of what this diagram implies right here. That's wild.
To these newts, though, the joint anatomy that lets them do it is shared by a number of newts and salamanders. Maybe to help them look bigger to try to scare off predators. The Iberian ribbed newt has just taken it to an extreme. And the places where the ribs poke out through the skin are marked by bright orange warts or bumps that stand out against the rest of the newt's skin. These are probably an aposematic signal. One that tells a predator that
it's a
trying
warning.
to eat the newt is not going to be worth the trouble. Like the bright colors of many poison dart frogs, or the vivid yellow and black stripes of a wasp. As for how the newt is able to survive using its skeleton as a weapon like this, well, the same way Marvel's Wolverine can. The Iberian ribbed newt also has super healing abilities. Some of the earlier researchers who studied the newt thought that its ribs stayed covered by a kind of sheath, that they didn't actually break the skin. And the scientists who set out to study the newt's defenses for a paper published in 2010 initially thought they might have had pores in those orange warts that let the rib ends just slide out. Again, without breaking the animal's skin. But they discovered that no, its ribs really do make actual holes in its skin, which should open the newt up to the risk of infection and death.
Except that amphibians are fairly permeable, aren't they? I mean, like, they literally breathe through their skin. They've got very wet skin. Like, stuff is already passing through them all the time. I don't think that's probably a huge deal.
Except it doesn't, because it turns out that amphibians in general, and newts and salamanders in particular,
They have
are
regenerative
really
abilities.
good at regenerating tissue.
Yeah.
The Iberian rib newt can even regrow limbs and organ tissue, which makes the punctures the ribs cause seem minor in comparison. And during healing, their skin is protected by special antimicrobial peptides, or
That's really
short chains
interesting.
of amino acids, that keep them from getting serious infections. These incredible healing abilities have made the Iberian ribbed newt an excellent model organism for studying tissue regeneration. In space, yep, these soft critters are also astronewts. They have been to space on at least 17 different missions. Wolverine, by the way, has also been to space a number of times, so the comparisons keep coming. And
Wolverines have been to... Why would you bring a Wolverine into space? They're a lot bigger, and they're... What?
newts. They have been to space on at least 17 different missions. Wolverine, by the way, has
Oh, Wolverine the superhero. Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, okay. I gotcha now. Yeah. I hear Wolverine, I immediately think of the mustelid, you know? Wolverines. The carnivorous mammal.
also been to space a number of times, so the comparisons keep coming. And they were used to study whether tissue regeneration happened faster or slower in microgravity, along with the effects of microgravity on reproduction, growth, and development. Weirdly enough, their tissue regenerated faster in space than it did on the ground. Maybe due to the stresses put on the newt's bodies by microgravity and spaceflight. Okay. So the Iberian ribbed newt can stab things with its skeleton, heal and regenerate tissue like a pro, and has been to space multiple times. Should Marvel be suing for copyright infringement? No, because the newt totally one-ups Logan. It's also toxic, like a lot of other amphibians. When the newt starts getting agitated enough to deploy...
Anyway, I'll give you a link to this if you want to watch the rest of it. We're not going to watch the whole thing right now because we've got other dinosaur deep dives to do. We got to finish up our Amargasaurus here. So yeah, it's not... that's probably not a great analogy, the Iberian spiky-ribbed newt, or what it was called. For these guys, I mean, since it is a largely complete skeleton that we know that they also have elongate neural spines throughout the back, too. That's actually really funny to me that anybody thought that these things would have been covered with keratin and would have been, like, spiky like that. Because it seems like, looking at the skeleton, the neural spines are long along the whole back of the animal, which is kind of a characteristic of Dicraeosaurids in the first place. But let's take a look. How much of this animal do we actually have? A good bit of it. Wow. Like... most of the animal. There we go. Scott Hartman. Once again, doing some excellent skeletal work there. This is what we call a skeletal, short for skeletal diagram in the biz. And Scott Hartman is one of the best in the world in doing this. Yeah, we've got a decent amount of the animal skeleton. 2 complete limbs, or nearly complete limbs. We're still missing some phalanges, I suppose. Some metacarpals. But, yeah, it's clear that the neural spines are long throughout all of the vertebrae that are on there until you get toward the distal end of the tail. So this is an animal that... Yeah. Shoot, it's got long neural spines throughout almost its whole body. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You made a Lego version of that fossil. Very neat, Dinosaur Dave. Yeah. Very nice. So anyway. Good stuff. A Margosaurus. Cool critter. We need more fossils from it in order to be able to figure out what do these animals look like at different growth stages, how do they change through ontogeny, and what kind of variation do we have throughout those neural spines. But pretty cool that we have any material from it at all. It's tantalizing. We need more. We need more. Cool. A Margosaurus. Yeah. And with that, we've got one more dinosaur deep dive to do, I believe. Well, a non-dinosaur deep dive, Eurohippus. It's a critter from Messel. Let's see if we can find a video for background on the Messel pit first, perhaps. Here's a PBS Eons video. Let's take a look at that. I've not seen this before, so this will be cool.
47 million years ago, the world was a hothouse. Lush jungles covered much of the globe.
By the way, setting the stage, this is long after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Yeah, 66 to 47. This is 19 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Except for birds, obviously. And you'll see some birds in here. Yeah. After the mass extinction event at the end of the Cretaceous.
Stretching far from the equator, and they were rife with mammals. This was life in the Eocene epoch, and around a quiet lake in what's now Germany, a typical scene was unfolding in late spring. Crocodiles patrolled the waters. Bats and birds flew overhead. Horses, many of them pregnant, came by for a drink.
Yeah, little horses like that. Little horses. Horses start off pretty small. That's something that a lot of people are surprised about. A lot of people, when they think of ancient animals, are like, oh, everything back then was really, really big. And, you know, then it just got smaller over time. That's often completely false. Horses are a great example of that. Horses today are the biggest they have ever been. Like a wild Mustang horse is like 5, 6, 10 times bigger maybe than some of the ancestral horses from the Eocene. Horses are bigger than they've ever been before.
And turtles were having turtle sex. But then all of these animals died, and quickly, tumbling down to their final resting place at the bottom of the lake. Then it happened again, and again, probably over thousands of years. In time, the lake filled with corpses. No one would discover this eerie scene until the 1800s, when miners began working in exposed deposits of mud near the town of Messel, Germany. They were extracting oil from the rock, and along with the oil, they found phenomenal fossils from those events 47 million years ago. These fossils were so beautifully preserved,
fossils,
it was as if
gorgeous.
the rocks had captured snapshots of life in the Eocene. The fossils contained early mammals with their hair
Darwinius,
still intact,
right?
birds with feathers, and turtles that died right in the middle of mating, the first known vertebrates found to have fossilized while doing the deed. What a way to go. But what happened to these Eocene animals? And why were their remains so exquisitely preserved? The answers lie at the bottom of Germany's Lethal Lake.
Cool stuff.
The fossil pit at Messel is one of the world's best examples of a Lagerstätte, an area of especially amazing fossil preservation. It may sound like some kind of beer, but Lagerstätte means storage place. And in the lake deposits of Messel, it's not just bones that were stored away. Take the holotype of Darwinius, an early lemur-like primate. Not only are all of its bones present in Messel, but the fossil also has a full body of hair still intact, proving it was just as
really neat.
Fuzzy as you might have guessed. Or look at the fossils of the early horse Eurohippus, some of which...
There we go. That's what our deep dive is on right now. I don't know anything at all about this critter, so I'm learning just as much as you are. Very cool.
Which still have leaves preserved in their guts. 8 of the Eurohippus specimens found at Mesa.
HD and HB says, I would drink a Lagerstadt. I mean, might be kind of gritty and, you know, rocky, but, you know, be my guest, I guess.
Horse Eurohippus, some of which still have leaves preserved in their guts. 8 of the Eurohippus specimens found at Mesa were pregnant, and their fetuses were preserved as well. Still other fossils reveal black outlines of animals' bodies impressed into the rock, showing pudgy bellies, big ears, and sleek silhouettes in a way that bones alone never could. But it's not just the level of preservation that sets Messel apart. Even more interesting are the types of animals preserved there. Some of the earliest known bat fossils anywhere come from Messel, preserved as full skeletons with the outlines of wings and ears. These beautiful specimens have shown paleontologists that bats started looking like bats a very long time ago, and that echolocation developed way earlier than we once thought. And bats are the only flying animals that show up. One of the most common animals found in Messel are birds.
Is a dinosaur. Yeah. What kind of bird is this, though?
Complete with feathers that have melanosomes, the cellular structures that contain pigment still intact.
Very
so far,
nice.
Messel has turned up 70 species of birds and 8 species of bats, which is an incredible
70 species of... Did I catch that? 70 species of birds?
Messel has turned up 70 species of birds.
That's nuts. 70 species. Oh, boy. I'm almost tempted to go, oh, it's probably oversplit, but... I don't know. From what I can understand, most of the time, people who work on Cenozoic stuff, paleontologists who work in the age of mammals, tend not to be as zealous over splitters as people who work in the Mesozoic, on dinosaurs in particular.
And 8 species of bats, which is an incredible abundance of these kinds of animals that tend not to fossilize very well. But perhaps even stranger than the flying animals are the turtles. Maybe it doesn't sound strange to find fossil turtles in a big lake deposit, but it's pretty strange to find 9 sets of them fossilized in the middle of mating. So what happened to these turtles and horses? And how did so many birds and bats...
Oh, or was there a volcanic eruption or volcanic outgassing during the spring, maybe?
fall into a lake.
That's a guess.
How are all of these things preserved so perfectly?
Let's see what the evidence
their
says.
Bones and their feathers and their fur still in place. Well, one clue is that in order for the turtles to have fossilized while mating, they must have died really quickly. And in order to preserve flying animals like birds and bats...
Well, there are turtles. Maybe it doesn't have to be super quick. But yeah.
The event would have had to affect not just those in and around the lake, but also those that lived above it. So one possible explanation for all this is that there was a big bloom of cyanobacteria. We see this happen sometimes in lakes today. Cyanobacteria can grow out of control in warm, nutrient-rich water and release chemicals so toxic that any animal that ingests them dies almost instantly. Blooms of cyanobacteria are also seasonal, and there's some indication that many of the fossilized animals at Messel died during late spring or early summer. That's when modern horses tend to be pregnant and when modern turtles tend to mate. And these kinds of bacterial blooms could have killed birds and bats if they drank the toxic water. This explanation, proposed by German scientists in 2004, is a good one. But there's still one big problem. Those turtles. After all, these were aquatic turtles. They lived in this lake, and presumably they ingested its water all the time. Cyanobacteria would have killed them long before they had a chance to mate. And even more troublesome, there's plenty of algae preserved in the lake. But there's no
volcanic?
So
volcanic outgassing?
Then what was it? Well, that relates back...
Chat, any hypotheses? What do you think may have killed these animals? Take some wild guesses. What do you think? You could say volcanic outgassing, that's what I said. But, asteroid? Chuck Norris? I don't think he was around back then, Dinosaur Dave. Jealous turtle husbands. Gas bubbles in the water. Big old lake burp, says Nell. You killed him, Luggino. I hope not. It was Y2K. Got them. And being Counter-Strike. Oh, boy. Yeah, it's an idea. Bermuda Triangle up there in Germany, yeah. Definitely. Red algae stacked out. Purple algae.
Back to the lake itself, and why it was there in the first place. Lake Messel formed in a steep-sided volcanic crater called A.M.A. We know this because the base of the lake is full of the broken volcanic rock that typically fills a crater after a major eruption. So the crater was water, but that didn't mean the volcano was done erupting. Some scientists think that what happened at Messel is similar to what happened at another Mar called Lake Nyos in Cameroon, West Africa in 1986. It was an eruption of carbon dioxide. Volcanic gases can be instantly deadly, and eruptions of carbon dioxide are known in Swahili as mazukus, or evil winds, invisible clouds of gas that asphyxiate anything in their path. A sudden release of CO2 would have choked out anything in the water, as well as anything by the water and anything above the water. from mating turtles to pregnant horses to bats, all at the same time. And Mizukus can happen in a couple of different ways. For example, the magma chamber that made the crater of Lake Messel could have just released a whole bunch of CO2 at once, like a big, nasty volcanic burp. And this can happen if magma comes in contact with
burp, or, if you will, fart.
Carbon-rich rocks. Or Messel could have undergone what's known as a limnic eruption, where CO2 that was dissolved in the lake water was suddenly released. CO2 dissolves in water, which is normally not a problem. But in deep, still water lakes, dissolved gases can separate into layers in a process called stratification. Heavy gases, like CO2, will sink to the bottom of the lake, while lighter gases, like oxygen, will stay close to the top. This is...
And you're right, Skip Turks, we've got a lot of very clever people here in the chat. Shout out to everyone who said lake burp there earlier. You were spot on. Maybe you've seen this before, or maybe you're just that clever. I don't know, but kudos to you either way.
This is what most likely happened at Lake Nyos in 1986. A thick layer of dissolved carbon dioxide built up at the bottom of the lake. And then something shook up the layers of the gas in the water, causing the CO2 to race to the surface and eventually form a Mizuku. The trigger could have been an underwater landslide or an earthquake, or a large amount of water entering the lake at once, like during a big flood. We're still not totally sure what caused Lake Nyos to erupt, and we definitely don't know what triggered the lake at Messel. But because the fossils of Messel were preserved over long periods of time, it seems likely that Mizuku struck there more than once. After each release of carbon dioxide, the animals in and around the lake died. Then the gas slowly built up again in the water until something disturbed it, and the cycle of death happened all over again. But Mizukus would only have killed the animals of Messel. They didn't preserve them. The reason the animals were so well preserved was because of the chemistry of the lake itself.
Anoxic, yeah.
They sunk into the still, cold, CO2-rich waters at the bottom of the lake. With so much CO2 and so little oxygen, the lake bottom wasn't habitable, which kept scavengers from disturbing the corpses. That's why so many fossils are preserved as articulated skeletons. But anaerobic bacteria could thrive in this environment, and they got to work. Harder tissues like hair, feathers, and bones were more resistant to the bacteria, but the bacteria could eat away at the soft tissues like skin, muscles, and organs. Then, the chemical byproducts of this decay reacted with dissolved iron in the oxygen-poor waters to create a mineral called
siderite. Who remembers where we heard this term before? Siderite. We were talking about this last week, I believe. Maybe it was the week before. Siderite. Which dinosaur were we talking about that's associated with this term? Bloat and float, yes. What was the name of the dinosaur, though? Does anybody remember? I have a beautiful little model of it right here, which was gifted to me by a truckhorn. A truckhorn's a, you know, a chatter here, wasn't a literal truck's horn. Yeah, let's focus in here. There we go. Boreella pelti, yes indeed, Lenina. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. And Boreella, you're right. Boreella pelta, there you go, Claire Burr, you got it too. Very nice, Claire. Yes. Shoot, siderite. Where was the... Excuse me.
Then the gas slowly built up again in the water until something disturbed it. But the bacteria could eat away at the soft tissues like skin, muscles, and organs. Then
there we
the
go.
chemical byproducts of this decay reacted with dissolved iron in the oxygen-poor waters to create a mineral called siderite. This mineral slowly settled onto the bacteria and preserved them in place, leaving a layer of siderite around the organs and soft tissues. Then this layer became filled with oily organic material, and over time it created dark, shadowy halos around fleshy tissues like skin and organs. Finally, all this material fossilized into the rocks that those miners found millions of years later. Small particles of mud and clay drifted down to cover the remains. As the layers built up, their weight compressed the fossils and dirt into thin layers called varves. Some layers built up at only 1/100th of a millimeter a year, an entire year of sediment crammed into a layer that's thinner than a page of your favorite novel. And there are a lot of varves in Messel. In fact, there's a varve for each of the approximately 1 million to 1.5 million years of deposition that occurred there about 47 million years ago. These thin pages of oily muck captured not just the death of these animals, but also how they lived, what they ate, and quite literally, who they loved. So it was the truly remarkable combination of all of these steps, rapid death, followed by bacterial decay, then siderite and oil, and the formation of varves, that preserved the beautiful fossils found in the Messel pit. And that's also why Lagerstätten are so rare. They're the sum of dozens of just right conditions, which don't happen every day. So when we do find a Lagerstätte, we have to protect it. And at first, the missile pit was excavated for one specific type of fossil, the fossilized algae that had long since turned into oil, permeating the spaces between grains of mud to form oil shale. But when mining stopped in the 1970s, the German government considered turning the pit into a garbage dump. Thankfully, a group stepped in to keep the complex and beautiful story of Messel, which began with that peaceful scene 47 million years ago, from being lost forever to time and trash.
There you go.
Thanks for joining.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. So that's Eurohippus there. Well, Eurohippus is one of those critters. And, there we go. I think we might have some clips of this animal. Iguanodon. Thank you very much to Aragon2222 for the follow. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Here. Let's check out Eurohippus here in Walking with Prehistoric Beasts. So this is the BBC documentary from the early 2000s. Yeah. This is one reconstruction of this animal here. Propaleotherium, I think, is the same critter as Eurohippus. Uh-oh. There's a whale! So you can see the horsiness of this critter, right? There you go. Little horses. All the pretty little horses. Yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. Eurohippus. Let's read about this critter. And did it used to be called Propaleotherium? Before the ancient beast, Propaleotherium? Yeah. There's a model of the critter. That's actually really funny looking. I like that a lot. And it's a stub. Holy cow, this is super short. Its species were long considered part of Propaleotherium and Lophiotherium. A pregnant specimen is described in 2015 from Messel. There you go. Pretty neat. Not a lot of info on this critter. But, you know, that's the thing. When you request a dinosaur deep dive for a non-dinosaur, you're going to get a shorter one. So that's how it works. Tactile 3D picture. Thanks for redeeming this one, though. It's cool. And I hope you're satisfied. I don't know a lot about these critters. I really don't. But, you know what? We can pad this out a little bit. Let's look up a video on the evolution of horses. So we can, you know, get your channel points worth. Evolution of horses. Let's see. Maybe we'll try this right here. I know it says Harvard Museum of Natural History, but just try and forget. I'm sure it'll be okay. You know? We know that's not... It's not like that's a prestigious school or anything, but, you know... Yeah. We're gonna watch it anyway. Let's grade on a curve here. I know it's Harvard.
My name is Brianna McHorse, and I study the evolution of horses at Harvard University.
Oh, holy cow, that's actually really cool. Shoot. Why didn't she go to a more prestigious university like, you know, Montana State University? How did she end up at a safety school like Harvard? I don't know, but we'll watch. Let's watch.
I use fossilized skeletons to understand how an animal moved during its lifetime. The fossil record provides us a snapshot of how the animal's body changes through evolutionary time, which can be over millions of years. Domestic horses that are alive today are capable of pretty amazing feats. They can run extremely fast, like in racehorses.
Yep.
They can navigate over very complex terrain, even on their hard hooves.
Yeah.
And the demands that we place on them place these incredibly high stresses on their bodies, especially their lower legs. So you can see in this video the extreme flexion of the joint above the hoof as the horse is
It's really
leaning
wild,
into the
actually.
jump. Or in this one, you have the horse almost laying down. It's dodging so hard to keep up with this cow.
Yeah.
But the earliest horses looked really different.
And on top of that, it's got a full-grown guy on its back. I mean, wow. Horses, we really ask a lot of them, don't we? Yeah.
The very first members of the horse family, Equidae, were very different from the zebras, horses, and donkeys that we have alive today. For instance, they were much smaller almost 60 million years ago.
Like our Eurohippus, about the size of a big house cat.
They had very small and what's called low-crowned teeth, as opposed to the horses of today, which have very tall-crowned teeth that go all the way into the skull.
Yeah,
major change,
shoot.
which is what I
So that's a cross section, by the way. Right here. So this is a cross section, like if you were to take a lightsaber and just go and you know, cut that away so you could see the interior. That's what you're looking at right there. So they, holy cow, they go, the roots are so deep down into the mandible there, and then into the maxilla, the lower jaw and the upper jaw, respectively. See, they're very long. They are, Smarf. Holy cow. Yeah. Yeah. Jim says, I was looking at an infographic of the top-rated tourist attractions in each state. Downtown Bozeman was the one for Montana. Not Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, where I used to work, Jim? Well, downtown Bozeman is nice, though. I used to work there.
which is what I studied,
Yeah.
was in the toes. The earliest horses had multiple toes, and over time they evolved just a single set of toes, ending in the hoof, which is really just an overgrown fingernail or toenail on the single tip of the finger or toe bone.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, I wonder if I can find you a clip here from the 1969 film The Valley of Guanji with the Eohippus. Yeah, here, take a look at this. Look at that beautiful little stop motion horse. Yeah, it is stop motion, Lagnito. And so the premise of this film is somewhere in, I think, northern Mexico. There's this valley, like the Forbidden Valley, where there's, you know, living dinosaurs and pterosaurs and little ancient horses like this still walking around. And then some people get an idea to come up with a circus act and capture some of these animals. And this is one of those animals. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, horses used to be really small and they used to have multiple toes. I can't find that clip from Valley of Guanji, but there's a clip where they talk about that. Yeah.
For a time, they evolved just a single set of toes, ending in the hoof, which is really just an overgrown fingernail or toenail on the single tip of the finger or toe bone. There are many kinds of three-toed horses. Some have much bigger side toes than others. This is Sudhipparion, a later three-toed horse. You can see here that it's got a single large center hoof. This is what later becomes the only hoof in modern horses. And here it's got an itty-bitty side hoof, which has already been considerably reduced through evolutionary time. To study what changed throughout horse evolution, first we need a way to measure those toes to be able to say how much they've changed. I had to design a way of tracking this digit reduction, or evolving a single toe, as a single continuous number instead of just categories like three-toed horse or one-toed horse.
Interesting, trying to quantify that.
Index, which measures the ratio of side toe lengths to center toe length. I combined this toe reduction index with CT scans of fossil horses, which lets us look at the internal structure of the bones to see how it changed through evolutionary time. We found that the shape of the leg bones changes as horses reduce their side toes, making them more able to handle the increased stresses of a larger body size and not having those extra toes to deal with it. Why do we care about stresses on the bones? Because breaking bones is generally bad for fitness. So evolutionarily, we would expect that the bones would evolve to be able to handle those increased stresses even as you're getting rid of the extra toes. In my research, I found
pretty
that
cool.
it was likely a
Pretty cool
combination of
indeed.
several factors, including changing climate and body size, that led horses to evolve their single toe and hoof. You'll be studying another major change in horse evolution.
We will be?
First, we'll try to figure out
This must be for some sort of online course or something like that.
what changed. And then we'll try to see what that can tell us about the changing conditions that horses were living and evolving in. Instead of studying the actual fossils, which are totally irreplaceable and very breakable, you'll be studying 3D printed versions of these same fossils.
Well, sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Pretty neat. See, once again, 3D printing turns out to be pretty important for vertebrate paleontology. Very nice. Oh, and that's the end of the video. Sorry. Yeah, neat stuff. So, horses, they start off small, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this long transition includes our friend Eurohippus, which is probably closely related to Hyracotherium at the bottom of that, aka Eohippus. But, yeah. Pretty neat. The evolution of the horse is one of the better documented, like, macroevolutionary series in vertebrate paleontology. And this is a wonderful diagram here. This is really cool. It does kind of oversimplify things. The evolution of horses, modern horses, from small Eocene horses with 4 toes or 5 toes up until 1 toe today. It's not a straight line. It's not a nice, easy, simple sequence like that. It's not just a straight line. It's more of like a branching bush where you've got all of these different species that are evolving in different directions. And today we've got horses with just 1 toe, but the 3-toed horses, they last a long time and they kind of go off in interesting directions and stuff. And it's a lot more complex and fascinating than just this nice, simple diagram. But textbook publishers like nice, simple diagrams for obvious reasons. So there you go. Yeah. A meandering river with many oxbows. That's beautifully put now. I like that a lot. Yeah. And HD and HB says, so horses started in North America, spread around the world, died out here, and then were reintroduced by the Spanish? Bingo. Yes. Yes, indeed. In fact, we might even have a video about that, now that you bring it up. How horses took over North America twice? It's more PBS eons. Why not?
It's 55 million years ago in North America, and the continent is draped in a canopy of swampy cypress trees and humid broadleaf forests. Bizarre predators like the hoofed carnivore
So again, this is after the extinction of the non-bird dinosaurs.
Mesonyx lurk in the undergrowth, ready to nab an animal called Eohippus. Eohippus may be small, just a half-meter tall, but it's also fast and well adapted to its environment. It runs on padded toes, each capped with a cute little hook.
So it's about the size of a big house cat, like maybe a Maine Coon. Or what's another big breed of domestic cat? A Maine Coon or a Ossicat or a who's the one with the jungle spots? Not servals are a different species of cat. Tony is my baby, but yeah. Dog says, look, yeah. Norwegian forest cat. Thank you, Claire Burr. Yeah. Bengal, that's what I'm thinking of. Misadventures in Astro. Thank you very much. A Bengal, yeah. A Savannah cat too, Vesper Doom, yeah. These horses are about that size, Yeah.
Perfect for making a quick getaway on the soft forest floor. But the future has big changes in store for little Eohippus. The climate is about to get cooler and drier, and soon the landscape of North America will become unrecognizable. Trees will give way to vast carpets of grass.
Yeah.
Snakes and other forest hunters will go extinct, and powerful new pack-hunting predators will evolve. To adapt to life on these newly forming plains, the descendants of...
I don't know why they show a cat for pack hunting predators there, but whatever.
Eohippus will undergo some dramatic changes. They'll grow to be over 30 times its size. They'll change their diet entirely, and they'll all start running on one giant toe. In time, these animals will become so successful that they'll spread all over the world, to Europe, Asia, South America, and Africa. But in their native range of North America, they'll vanish for 10,000 years, until another strange mammal brings them back.
Yeah, the Spanish. Strange mammals indeed. Those Spaniards.
Back at the start of the Eocene epoch, the world was in the clutches of the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, and warm, damp forest covered the land from pole to pole.
The Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. Does anybody have an idea what that might be, by the way? What is the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, or PETM? Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. What do you think that might be, chat? Take a guess. And here, let me give you some extra time by resetting that soundbite there. Yeah. When the Earth's not in an ice age, I mean... you're not wrong now, yeah. Paper City Gamer says trees. There were definitely a lot of trees. Holy cow, yes, at this time. Yeah. Volcanism-induced global warming. Yeah, something we are trying to outdo. Oh no, Ken, yes. The Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum is a time between the Paleocene and Eocene epochs in the Paleogene period, the age of mammals, where temperatures got really high. And there was basically like no ice on planet Earth. Yeah, this is a time when lots of carbon dioxide was in Earth's atmosphere, really, really high carbon dioxide parts per million. And holy cow, a lot of Earth's land was flooded at the time. Temperatures were very high. You had tropical plants up in Alaska at the time. But it happened slowly enough that critters were generally able to adapt pretty well. Unlike what we're doing now, we're basically trying to speed run this same thing, and it's not going well. Holy cow.
Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, and warm, damp forest covered the land from pole to pole. This was the environment that gave rise to the very first perissodactyls, hoofed mammals with an odd number of toes. Today they include rhinos,
like rhinos, tapirs, horses. End of list, I think.
And horses. One of the first perissodactyls that we know of was Hyracotherium, a small ungulate whose fossils were first discovered in England and named, for some reason, for its supposed resemblance to the rock Hyrax. I mean, what? Anyway, there were a lot of different Hyracotherium-like animals, known as Hyracotheres, that were widespread all over the northern hemisphere. And one of them, found only in North America, was Eohippus, or dawn horse. It was named by American paleontologist O.C. Marsh, whose facial hair I really admire, and who found the first complete fossil of this animal in New Mexico in 1876. It was about the size of a dog, around 35 centimeters at the shoulder. And like other
small dog,
it had short, low-crowned teeth that were good for browsing on leaves in the dense forest. Eohippus also had feet unlike any animal alive today, with toes that were each capped with separate hooves, 4 on its front feet and 3 on its hind feet. Is it neat, or does that just sound really cute? Now, this unassuming little forest creature might not seem like much, but it gave rise to the most successful family.
And Nell, you're right. Milankovitch cycles would not have played as big a part. No. This is more like Earth's climate was changing because of, I think, I think there was massive volcanism going on, which caused Earth's temperatures to go up. Yeah, basically like runaway greenhouse gases for a while. But this is like, it's much more gradual than what's happening today, you know? We're kind of doing a similar thing today, except just absolutely speed running this to the point where it's completely unsafe. Like, creatures will not be able to adapt. It's just happening too fast.
Perissodactyls of all time,
Yeah.
Equidae, the family that includes the modern horse. At the height of its diversity, the equid family would include more than a dozen genera that roam the northern hemisphere. Today, however, only one genus remains, Equus, which includes modern horses, donkeys, and zebras. Thanks to an abundance of fossils found throughout North America, we can reconstruct much of the horse family tree, from the tiny browsing multi-toed Eohippus to the large grazing single-toed Equus. The story of horse evolution is one of constant adaptation and radiation in response to changes in North America's climate. And all these adaptations were in some way driven by the appearance of grasslands, which weren't widespread in North America when Eohippus was around. But about 49 million years ago, in the
So during the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, the North America was dominated by basically like tropical forests. You had crocodiles absolutely everywhere, you know, lizards and snakes and early primate things and early horses, you know, walking around through these broad-leaved forests. It was only later, after the Eocene, I think going into like the Oligocene, that the climate kind of dried out, cooled a bit, and you had grasslands that started to take over. That's when you get like the start of the Great Plains in the U.S., you know?
Mid-Eocene, the climate began to get cooler and
there we go.
By the late Eocene, the thermal maximum was history, and North America's dense forests began to give way to a mosaic of dry grasslands. It was in this patchwork environment where a descendant of Eohippus first appeared. Mesohippus begins to show up about 38 million years ago, first described again by O.C. Marsh in 1875. And in very short order, at least geologically speaking, one lineage of Mesohippus quickly diversified into yet another genus, Miohippus, within about 3 or 4 million years. So Mesohippus and Miohippus roamed the continent together at the start of the Oligocene. But they were both different from Eohippus in some important ways, showing that they were starting to adapt to North America's changing landscape. For one thing, they both had more molars than Eohippus did, and their teeth had higher crests for grinding more fibrous, abrasive food, like grass. Both were also slightly larger than Eohippus and with longer legs. Mesohippus weighed about 23 kilograms, while Miohippus averaged about twice that. And both had lost their fourth front toe, while their middle toe had grown larger and was bearing more weight. By the mid-Oligocene, the smaller Mesohippus had disappeared, but their larger Miohippus survived and radiated into many different species that flourished in the following epoch, the Miocene. By this time, the mosaic of swamps, forests, and grasslands wasn't really a mosaic anymore. The forests and marshes had given way to wide stretches of dry, open prairie. And one of the most important likely descendants of Miohippus was an equid that was even better adapted to life on the plains, Parahippus. Paleontologists have been able to learn a lot about.
And BKJ says leaves are not equal to grass. No, I mean, they take different kinds of teeth to chew up and digest. It's a different kind of lifestyle living in a forest versus living out on the plains. Yeah. Yeah. And was that a bear, says HD and HB? Where? That might be a primitive bear right there, yeah. Yeah.
Open prairie. And one of the most important likely descendants of Miohippus was an equid that was even better adapted to life on the plains, Parahippus.
Parahippus. There you go.
Have been able to learn a lot about one particular species of this horse, Parahippus leonensis, thanks to a quarry in Florida where nearly 90 specimens have been found.
Holy cow, it's a great sample size.
3 million years ago, and its adaptations to prairie life went further than just having pointy molars. Namely, it was the first early horse to be a true hypsodont. That means
those high crown teeth.
Really long, but they kept erupting out of the gums as they wore down to reveal new chewing surface. This proved to be a huge advantage for living on the plains, because if you're going to make a living by eating grass, which is really abrasive, then you need large teeth that can withstand a lot of wear.
So this is, again, why grass is different from eating leaves. It's like the difference between a browser and a grazer. As a browser, you walk around, you kind of browse, you know, eat some soft leaves here, you walk over there, you eat some other leaves, you're kind of choosy about what you're doing. A grazer, you're just eating grass all day long, basically. And grass is, like he said, very abrasive. Ifreed says, ever chew on a piece of straw as a kid and pretend you're a hillbilly? It's the difference between doing that and eating a salad. There you go. Basically, yeah.
This adaptation helped Parahippus and its descendants take full advantage of North America's fastest growing niche. And by about 17 million years ago, the fossil record shows that a new distinct genus had evolved from the Parahippus lineage, called Merycopus. And Merycopus is another important benchmark in the evolution of the horse because it's the first true equine. Equines are the subfamily of equids that include modern horses. And like Merycopus, they all have important traits that earlier horses lacked. For one thing, Merycopus was a lot bigger. It stood about a meter tall, the height of a small pony. And it had the long head that we now think of as
bigger.
horse-like. And even more so than its ancestors, its legs were especially well adapted to running on hard ground. It stood on tiptoe, with all of its weight on 3 toes, supported by springy ligaments. Its leg bones were also longer, and the bones in the foreleg were fused together, making them strong.
The land of the planet was
Oops, kapoots.
one vast
Thank you for the
supercontinent.
4 months of support.
Dinosaurs soon occupied every corner of that world.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Oops,
Withstand
kapoots.
more force. With the help of these adaptations, equines like Merycopus were able to grow larger than forest-dwelling horses, reaching up to 450 kilograms. Now, being so big probably helped them deal with large Miocene predators, like saber-toothed barbrophilids. But their size also put a lot more stress on their legs and toes. That is, until yet another new adaptation appeared. Several descendants of Merycopus became monodactyls, meaning they only had 1 toe. Like
There you go.
Dinohippus, which appeared about 10 million years ago.
What a great name, Dinohippus.
But others only had
The
1.
terrible
And
horse.
counterintuitively enough, having
Terrible horse, Dinohippus. Earth trembled before it. Children ran and screamed. Dinohippus, the terrible horse. Yeah. Dino means like terrible or fearfully great or awesome. Just yeah, Dinotopia, the terrible place. There you go. I'm freed. Yeah.
Some horses in this genus still had 3 toes, but others only had 1. And counterintuitively enough, having only 1 large toe actually reduced the stress caused by the horse's weight. To make up for the stability that was lost, over time horses began to rely more on their ligaments. So, as they became increasingly adapted to their grassy new environment, equines thrived throughout the Miocene. Then, as the Pliocene epoch opened, about 4 million years ago, one of the single-toed groups of equines finally gave rise to Equus, the genus of the modern horse. We don't know which one it was exactly, but Dinohippus seems to be the monodactyl that's most closely related to the horses we know today. Now, the oldest known species of Equus is Equus simplicitans. It appears about 4 million years ago and has been found from Florida to the Hagerman fossil beds in Idaho.
I want to say this is the one from Idaho, maybe? Yeah, at the Idaho Museum of Natural History in Pocatello, I think. I think I have photographs of this when I was there last year.
It appears about 4 million years ago and has been found from Florida to the Hagerman fossil beds in Idaho. It was about the size of a modern horse with similar teeth, a long face and neck, fully fused leg bones, and a well-developed stay mechanism, which horses use to lock their legs in place, an adaptation for spending most of their time on their feet. But unlike their predecessors, species of Equus didn't stay confined to North America. 3 million years ago, they crossed into South America as part of the Great American...
Yeah, during GABI, the Great American Biotic Interchange. When I was at the meeting today at the Museum of Paleontology in Berkeley, just down the road from me, there were several students there who were studying GABI, the Great American Biotic Interchange, trying to find different ways to kind of piece together what was going on at the time, looking at different groups of animals, finding different research methods to try and elucidate this. It's cool stuff. Really interesting time in the history of North American faunas, and South American faunas too, obviously.
Biotic interchange. And about 500,000 years after that, they crossed the Bering Strait land bridge to spread into Asia, Europe, and Africa.
Yeah. Harry wants to know, do we know why American horses went extinct? It might have been overhunting. Yeah, but he'll probably talk about that in this video.
During this time, all of the
10 miles from Hagerman. Oh, very cool, HD. Small world.
Then, about 10,000 years ago, at the end of the Pleistocene, most of North America's large mammals, including Equus, went extinct. Now, there's a big, healthy scientific debate going on about what caused this extinction event, but it's safe to say that it was probably a combination of factors. As you can imagine, the end of the last ice age brought a lot of major changes to the continent, like changes in habitat and vegetation patterns. Plus, populations of bison began to grow and spread, competing with horses for food. The fossil record shows that horses range...
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that like horses and all these other critters had withstood the end of numerous ice ages in the past and done just fine. It happens to be just when people show up that they start to decline, and then bow, they're gone.
Ranges were shrinking, and that some horses themselves may have gotten smaller to help deal with the lack of resources. And then, well, humans showed up. Scientists have found evidence that these early humans hunted horses, probably putting more pressure on animals that were already struggling. But the horses that had migrated out of North America survived the extinction on other continents. In Asia, horses traversed the grasslands of the Eurasian steppes. And about 6,000 years ago, humans began to realize that horses could be pretty useful. People like the members of the bowtie culture in ancient Kazakhstan began to domesticate the survivors of the Equus lineage. Today, all modern horses all over the world are descendants of domesticated horses from this region. Over
Very
the next
cool.
6,000 years, horses shaped the course of human history. They proved to be a game changer for everything from hunting and agriculture to war and transportation. And humans, in turn, shaped horses, selectively breeding them to grow larger, faster, and in my opinion, even more beautiful. Then in the late 1400s, Spanish settlers put their horses on ships and brought them across the Atlantic. Much of America was still covered in those open grasslands that horses were so well suited for, and it didn't take long for them to take over their former range a second time. The first known feral horses escaped Mexico City around 1550. More escaped from ranches in New Mexico in the 1600s. Native Americans began to capture and ride the horses, spreading them further across the continent. Thanks to humans, horses have become one of the most numerous and widespread mammals of all time. The continent has changed a lot since the days when Eohippus first picked its way through vast, humid forests. But today, millions of domestic horses live all over the world, including 67,000 wild horses that are back to roaming their native plains. Members of that second successful wave of horses that took over North America.
Pretty cool stuff. So there you go. That's my very best effort to take a critter I know nothing about, Eurohippus, and make a proper deep dive out of it. So I hope that was fun. Hope you learned something about the evolution of the horse and the history of life on our incredible planet Earth there. Yeah. GG horses, says HD and HP. There you go. Thanks. Well, with that having been said, we'll take one last look at our 3D printer. Excellent. We have just a little while left for these two elements that are printing. Good, good, good. We'll have our Allosaurus skull. With any luck, this will be done by the end of the week. Very excited. Oh boy. But I've got some work to do on this. I've got some emails to send out. I've got some science stuff to work on. And so it is now time for us to wrap up our stream for today. We'll throw a mammal there under our credits. And let's find somebody who's doing some science on Twitch that we can raid into, maybe. Who have we got? Astro Canuck is streaming right now. Let's go raid into him. But don't go away just yet, everybody. Yeah. First off, a very heartfelt thank you to everybody here in the credits. Followers, subscribers, resubscribers, gifters, cheerers, moderators, and of course lurkers too. Thank you for making this channel what it is. Thank you for keeping me here on the air. We'll be coming back tomorrow with some more exciting paleontology stuff. We're going to be looking at some fossil news tomorrow, I betcha. And we'll see what else we've got on the docket. Something exciting, I'm sure. Don't miss it. But until then, we're going to go check out what Astro Canuck is doing. So Astro Canuck does astronomy and Legos, too, apparently. The UCS Razor? I don't know what that is, but I'm sure somebody here does, and I'm sure it's exciting. We'll go check out what Astro is doing. Everybody, thank you again. I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care.